Chapter 221. The two silhouettes sped across the sea at lightning speed, and everything in Beihai Harbor disappeared into the horizon in just a few moments. The black-robed elder beside the crown prince, Beitang Wangshuan, was closely chasing after the man wearing a golden mask. Dense fireballs were constantly shot out from the black-robed elder's side, blasting towards the man in front of him. At the same time, the man in front was also constantly releasing fireballs towards the man behind him. The speed of the two people had already surpassed the speed of sound. When the two people flew close to the surface of the sea, huge sonic booms would resound around them. The surface of the sea looked like it was being plowed by two invisible plows, causing the seawater to roll and leave two white traces on the surface of the sea. Occasionally, a fireball would enter the sea and explode in an instant. The high temperature evaporated a large amount of water vapor from the seawater. If Xiao Pingon was here, he would definitely feel that this pursuit was like a fighter jet fighting in the air. Both of them were so powerful that it was completely unimaginable for ordinary people. Just as the two people were speeding across the sea, the man wearing a golden mask suddenly saw a strange scene on the surface of the sea in front of him. A red sun jumped out of the sea, shining brightly. The sun was right above their heads. How could there be a sun rising from the sea? In the blink of an eye, a second sun also rose from the sea. The third, the fourth, 8 red suns rose in front of them, behind them, in the sky, on the ground, on the north, south, east, and west. A man wearing a white robe embroidered with 8 three-legged golden crows stood under the red sun with his hands behind his back. He coldly looked at the man wearing a golden mask who was rushing towards him. The moment he saw the 8 red suns, the man wearing a golden mask stopped. The sea beneath his feet had already disappeared. The man in the golden mask found that he was already in a world of flames. The 8 suns were everything in this world. In the sky of this world, there was a pattern that spanned across the sky. That pattern was composed of 3 horizontal lines, which were broken in the middle and became 6 horizontal lines. If Xiao Pingon was here, he would definitely recognize that the 3 horizontal lines across the sky were Li hexagram. Li represented fire. The aura of the man in white was like that of the king of this world. He was cold, ruthless, powerful, and looked down on everything. The man with the golden mask lifted his head and looked at the 6 horizontal lines in the sky that were filled with heavenly might. His voice was bitter as he slowly spat out 4 words. "Li Fire, Lord of Heaven." The man in the white robe said coldly, "Are you going to wear that thing on your face before you die? Why are you here? I'll wait for you." Li Fire, Heaven Lord said calmly. Sigh. The person wearing the golden mask sighed faintly. He gently took off the mask on his face, revealing the gentle and refined face of a thin old man behind it. At that moment, his face was filled with a deathly gray of despair. I didn't expect the famous medical sage in Shangjing City to be the altar master of the Blood Demon Church. The man in white shook his head slightly. In the end, you and I are just looking for an opportunity to become an immortal god. At this moment, we are just serving different masters. The thin old man calmed down completely and smiled. His eyes suddenly turned blood red, and the aura of his body began to rise rapidly. The demon gate is about to open. The world is in chaos. The war between the gods has been reignited. The 2 dominators standing above the gods will fight again. The universe is going through a cycle of reincarnation. I might just be 1 step ahead of you. I'll wait for you below. You're about to die, and you still have so much nonsense to say. The white-robed man pointed his finger, and the 6 horizontal lines with mighty heavenly might pressed down. The 8 red suns shone brightly, and the temperature of the entire void suddenly rose to an unimaginable level. The entire space was twisting under the high temperature. The 6 horizontal lines were about to hit him. The thin old man's face instantly turned ferocious. His body suddenly grew to a height of 5 meters. The muscles all over his body bulged. His fingernails grew longer and horns grew on his head. Hard scales began to appear on his skin. The blood in his body was boiling. He let out a roar and countless summoned creatures appeared around him like a tide. Humans, warriors, slave soldiers, all kinds of strange creatures, as well as defensive spells. All the struggles were meaningless. It was like Mount Tai falling on a chicken egg. Chi! A sound was heard. The altar master of the blood demon church and all the summoned creatures and spells instantly turned into smoke under the 6 horizontal lines. They dissipated in an instant, and not a single trace was left. The 6 horizontal lines and the 8 red suns dissipated, and the sea reappeared. The man in white stood in the void. Not far away, the old man in black waited quietly. From the beginning to the end, only less than half a minute had passed. The two of them were still standing on the turbulent sea. There was only one sun in the sky above. It's the medical sage of Shangjing City. He has been killed, the man in white said calmly. The old man in black bowed and turned to fly towards Beihai Harbor. The man in white stood in the air. His white robe fluttered in the wind. He raised his head and looked at the scorching sun above him. He sighed softly. The demon gate is open. The world is turbulent. Sigh. In the sky to the north of Beihai Port, blood-red flames and lightning filled the sky. The terrifying void divine lightning exploded in the sky, covering an area of 10 li in an instant. Like a blood-red umbrella, it enveloped Crown Prince Beitang Wangchuan, and the guards of Beitang Wangchuan sighed. Ha, die for me. So what if it's Beitang Wangchuan? He will also turn into ashes. Ha. A person wearing a devil mask laughed maniacally under the void god lightning. The sense of accomplishment from successfully assassinating the Crown Prince of Dashang made that person unable to stop himself. But in the blink of an eye, the maniacal laughter stopped abruptly, because he saw that Beitang Wangchuan and the guards at his side, under the terrifying divine void lightning, instantly became thin, and they all turned into pieces of paper. The pieces of paper released a faint yellow light and resisted the void god lightning for less than half a second. But in the blink of an eye, the pieces of paper turned into ashes. Not good. It's a substitute puppet. The Blood Demon Church spent so much precious void god lightning to set up a killing array. But in the end, it turned into a few pieces of paper. It was a trap. The person wearing the devil mask wanted to retreat, but he saw an old man carrying a pole appear in front of him. 7 Sea Shark Demon, I trust you have been well. Have your injuries healed, Master Mao Mao? The 7 Seas Shark Demon cried out as though he had seen a ghost. That old man smiled at the person wearing the devil mask. In the next second, the old man's bamboo pole turned into a jade-green fishing pole. With a swing of the fishing pole, the 7 Seas Shark Demon's mouth and head were hooked by a golden hook. The 7 Seas Shark Demon was hooked by the old man's fishing pole and thrown out heavily. Like a cannonball, he crashed into a nearby mountain. The entire mountain was shattered, and the 7 Seas Shark Demon's mask also fell off. Under the mask, the 7 Seas Shark Demon's bones were broken, and he spat out 3 liters of blood. His face split into 3 parts, and he looked as ugly as a demon. Before that old man could throw out the fishing pole again, the 7 Seas Shark Demon had already smashed his own head with a fist in fright. He threw off the golden hook, and his body turned into 3 wisps of bloody smoke that frantically escaped towards the sea. The jade-green fishing pole was thrown out once again. The golden hook hooked onto a wisp of bloody smoke. The old man put away his fishing pole and stretched out his hand to pinch that wisp of bloody smoke, directly crushing it. A man wearing a scholar's robe appeared. He held a brush and wrote 4 words with the brush. 2 of them were trap, and 2 of them were burn. The second and third wisps of blood smoke were trapped and then burned fiercely. The second wisp of bloody smoke turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. The third cloud of blood smoke also turned into ashes, but a red bead flew out from the ashes. With a flash of light, it disappeared from the spot. In the next second, the bead appeared on the surface of the sea in the distance and sank into the sea. The jade-green fishing pole and the golden hook wanted to hook that bead. However, they missed. Soul-stealing bead. I've not imagined that the 7 Seas Shark Demon has such a life-saving treasure. The old man with the fishing pole flew over. Watching the direction where that bead disappeared, he sighed with pity. The scholar in a long robe also flew over as he shook his head. That old B** starred got a lot of treasures on the sea. I'm afraid that he hid them secretly. However, even if he could survive this time, he would only be a wisp of his remnant soul. I wonder what kind of parasite he has. He could never recover his cultivation base. I'll deal with him next time I see him. You're right. In North Sea Harbor, the Summon Corps had already appeared and started to clean those pirates who had sneaked into the city. Everything was under control. Chapter 222. At the same time, in Shangjing City, Xiao Pingon was in a restaurant. While eating the fragrant and exquisite soup dumplings and various snacks in front of him, he was sizing up a mansion that occupied dozens of acres in the distance. On both sides of the mansion's entrance, there were two white jade carved gatekeeper lions. On the entrance of the mansion, there was a plaque with the words Hong Mansion written on it. Looking from the restaurant, one could only see the mansion's richly ornamented beams and painted rafters. Faintly, one could see that it was a wealthy family. The owner of the mansion was the president of the Shangjing Business Association, Hong Defa. The Shangjing Business Association was a reputable business association in Shangjing City. It was said that they were backed by nobles in the imperial court. The president of the business association, Hong Defa, was also a well-known wealthy businessman in Shangjing City. It was noon, and the streets outside the Hong Manor were bustling with activity. The few servants standing at the entrance of the Hong Manor were looking at the people coming and going with high spirits. Two beggars in ragged clothes were just about to take a break under the shadow of a tree beside the Hong Manor when the servants of the Hong Manor immediately came over aggressively and chased the two beggars away, kicking and scolding them. Xiao Pingon didn't go to Beihai Harbor to join in the fun. It was too dangerous for him, so he didn't bother. It was fine as long as he stayed in Shangjing City. Beihai Harbor and Shangjing City were both under the same sky. As the situation there changed, Shangjing City wouldn't be peaceful either. As long as he looked at the situation in Shangjing City, he would know what was going on in Beihai Harbor. In the private room, sitting opposite Xiao Pingon, was a broker from the real estate brokerage house. He was a middle-aged man in his 40s who looked simple and honest, with a plump body and bright eyes. He had been talking to Xiao Pingon for a few days. It wasn't easy to meet a big client like Xiao Pingon. Moreover, rich people were picky. Seeing Xiao Pingon looking at that mansion outside the window from time to time, the broker also smiled. Mr. Yang, that mansion belongs to the Hong family of the president of Shangjing Business Group. If Mr. Yang likes it, we can also find such a mansion. It's just that its location is a bit remote. Although it's not as boisterous as Tiananmen Square Avenue, it has a nice environment and is tranquil. This mansion of the Hong family is well known in Shangjing City. It's worth at least 500,000 gold coins. I can't afford 500,000 gold coins. It's too expensive. Let's talk about the shop. Can you lower the price a bit? 43,600 gold coins. It's too expensive. Xiao Pingon smiled as he haggled with the broker. At this moment, Xiao Pingon noticed that there were some abnormalities on the street outside the Hong family's mansion. The density of the street vendors and pedestrians had unknowingly increased. The Hong family's mansion was already surrounded by people. A group of men and horses from Mount Ping were hurriedly rushing towards this place. On the other side of the palace, Field Officer Su, who had just changed into casual clothes and walked out of the palace, met one of his senior officers and two of his colleagues on the street. When the four people were talking, Field Officer Su's senior officers and his colleagues acted at the same time and restrained Field Officer Su almost instantly. Field Officer Su's senior officer's face was cold. In an instant, more than 10 strange needles were inserted into Field Officer Su's body. Field Officer Su's body softened and fell to the ground. Since Shangjing City had acted, it meant that Beihai Harbor had also acted. Xiao Pingon smiled slightly and took another bite of the tender and juicy bun with a leisurely expression. Young Master Yang, that shop is not expensive at all. Think about it. That place is on Tianyuan Bridge. How could it be cheap? Additionally, the place that young Master Yang likes is the best. It faces the street and is next to the square in the middle of the street. Behind the shop, There's a courtyard, an attic, and a few large rooms. It's suitable for people to live in and do business there. Previously, there was an art gallery there, but it was renovated not long ago. Everything is new now. Including the furniture, there are only a few shops and courtyards on Tianyuan Bridge that are on sale. There are not many shops in Shangjing City. The middleman tried his best to introduce. If young Master Yang thinks it's too expensive, I can give you a discount of half of my brokerage fee. Then, I will talk to the landlord and try to round off the 600 gold coins. After negotiating for a few days, this is the best we can get. If this is not possible, then we really have no other choice. Young Master Yang, even if you travel all over Shangjing City, you won't be able to find a better one. After thinking about it for a while, Xia Pingan nodded. Okay, you can talk to the landlord. If he can reduce the price by another 600 gold coins, I will settle it in a couple of days. 600 gold coins was not a small amount. He could buy 2 common realm pearls with that amount of gold coins. At this time, the price of the house had been reduced from 45,000 gold coins to 43,000 gold coins. Although Xia Pingan still felt a bit reluctant, he could still accept it. Okay, young Master Yang, just wait for my news. The middleman stood up and was about to leave. Have something to eat before you leave. It's my treat. Don't be shy. Enjoy your meal, young Master Yang. I will help you settle it. The middleman smiled as he directly left and quickly went downstairs. Less than 2 minutes after the middleman left, many pedestrians and peddlers on the street outside Hong's mansion instantly took action. They immediately took down some servants outside Hong's mansion and directly rushed into the gate of Hong's mansion. The street was in a panic at once. The 2 guards outside Hong's mansion tore off their clothes and revealed the Judgment Army's uniform and waist tag. They shouted, "The Judgment Army is handling a case. All unrelated personnel, please leave." Hong's mansion was in chaos. The Judgment Army that rushed over immediately surrounded Hong's mansion and sealed off the nearby streets. Not even a mosquito was allowed to fly out. Slurp. Xia Pingan drank a mouthful of rose porridge and looked at everything that was happening in the distance with satisfaction. It was strange. After knowing that he had to become a god to be able to destroy the Dark Tower, Xia Pingan's pressure completely disappeared. He threw the matter of the Dark Tower to the back of his mind and relaxed. However, he was full of energy, as if he was starting a new life. At this moment, Xia Pingan was young Master Yang from Yang City. He had just arrived in Shangjing City and was a summoner and dream master. He was preparing to make a name for himself in Shangjing City. In a different state of mind, Shangjing City had a different feel to it in Xia Pingan's eyes. It seemed to have become more amiable and approachable. After Xia Pingan finished his meal, he went down the restaurant. Outside Hong's mansion, there were already pitch-black prison wagons. Everyone in Hong's mansion was taken out and sent to the prison wagons. The door of Hong's mansion was also sealed. Besides the Hong's mansion, the Medical St. Hall in Shangjing City and the Great Wan Guild Hall were also sealed at the same time. The Judgment Army attacked everywhere and shook the entire Shangjing City. Xia Pingan had just bought a bunch of realm pearls and was preparing to eat his buns and porridge before returning to Changle Alley to break through to the Two Sun Realm. Chapter 223. Shangjing Imperial Palace, 9-layer Forbidden Area, Fenghua Court. Crown Prince Beidang Wangchuan was in a pavilion, currently sipping tea and playing chess with the commander of the Judgment Army, Lin Yi. Outside the pavilion, the garden was filled with blooming gorse flowers, filling the entire Fenghua Court with spring. Today, Beihai Harbor was in turmoil, and Shangjing City was also in turmoil. However, Beitang Wangchuan did not leave the Imperial Palace. As for the commander of the Judgment Army, he stayed by the Crown Prince's side to protect him. The information obtained by the Judgment Army was very important, and those people had confirmed that they were from the Blood Demon Church and wanted to harm Beitang Wangchuan. However, those with high positions and power all needed to rely on Zhou Xiang to plan the overall situation. What if those exposed people from the Blood Demon Church were just bait? With the Judgment Army and the Crown Prince mobilizing experts to Beihai Harbor, What would happen if the capital was empty and someone took advantage of the situation to invade? As a result, the entire Shangjing city was relaxed on the outside, but tense on the inside. Countless experts were in hiding, but the Judgment Army was ready to set out, and the 4 camps outside Shangjing city were all on standby. Some hurried footsteps could be heard from outside the palace, and Beitang Wangchuan, who was thinking about placing a chess piece, could not help but pause. Lin Yi smiled slightly. There should be a conclusion to the matter. Sure enough, in less than 10 seconds, a beautiful female official carried a tray and entered Fonghua Court. She slightly curtsied in front of Beitang Wangchuan and Lin Yi, then placed a tray in front of them before bowing and leaving. Inside the tray, there was a secret document from the Judgment Army, as well as a few scrolls. Lin Yi picked up the secret document and opened it. After glancing through it, he smiled slightly. "Congratulations, Your Highness. The operation at Beihai Harbor went smoothly. Aside from a remnant soul of the Seven Seas Shark Demon that managed to escape with a soul-stealing pearl, all the people from the Blood Demon Church that participated were killed. The altar master of the Blood Demon Church was destroyed by Leaf Fire Heaven Lord's Leaf Fire Divine Domain. The fleet led by Wu Qi Long of the Navy captured the Seven Seas Shark Demon's lair, Demon Shark Island. The 5,000 pirates on Demon Shark Island were all killed, and the rats in Shangjing City were captured." Beitang Wangchuan also smiled. "That Seven Seas Shark Demon is quite lucky to actually have a treasure like the soul-stealing pearl. We didn't think about it before. If we had known, we would have arranged things better and wouldn't have let him escape. Legend has it that the Seven Seas Shark Demon once entered the demonic Dragon Palace in the deep sea. He might have obtained the soul-stealing orb from the demonic Dragon Palace. We were careless," Lenny said with some self-blame. "Everything doesn't have to be perfect. This is the will of the heavens. Even if that Seven Seas Shark Demon manages to escape with a wisp of his soul, he won't be able to cause any trouble in the future. I'll just kill him if I encounter him again." Beitang Wangchuan was in a good mood. "Originally, I thought that there would be some sort of commotion in Shangjing today. Who knew that Shangjing would be peaceful? It seems that we were a bit cautious. This time, the intelligence that the adjudicating army received was accurate, and they saved me. They also got rid of the snakes and rats that were hidden in Shangjing. This is a meritorious service for the country." "Yes." Lin Yi nodded in agreement. The Judgment Army had done a good job this time. As the commander of the Judgment Army, Lin Yi felt proud and was in a good mood. "Right, what's that?" Beitang Wangchuan saw the picture scroll on the tray. He picked it up and opened it. When he found that it was a portrait, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. "This matter is about to be reported to Your Highness. This is what we found from the snakes and rats. According to the people of the Blood Demon Church, this is a kill order issued by the altar master of the Blood Demon Church. These people are space traversers. I heard that they have already arrived at the Gold Moon continent and possibly the Shang dynasty. I don't know why the Blood Demon Church would order to kill these people." Lin Yi opened the portrait. When Lin Yi saw the face in the portrait, he was stunned. Others didn't know who the person in the portrait was, but it was impossible for Lin Yi not to know. This was because that person was a member of the Judgment Army Shadow Squad, a secret elite of the Judgment Army that he directly commanded. The intelligence broker of the Blood Demon Church's operation was the person in the portrait, Xia Pingon. It could be said that the reason why the Judgment Army's operation was so successful this time was because the information brought by Xia Pingon was accurate. Xia Pingon had not contacted the Judgment Army these days. Lin even suspected that Xia Pingon had been killed. He even sent people to search for him in Shangjing City, but to no avail. He didn't expect to see Xia Pingon's portrait again in the information of the space traversers that the Blood Demon Church was chasing. Beitang Wangchuan immediately noticed that Lin Yi's expression was strange. "What's wrong?" Lin Yi sighed and handed the portrait in his hand to Beitang Wangchuan. This person came to Shangjing earlier and wanted to join the Judgment Army. Because of his outstanding performance, he was accepted by the Judgment Army's Shadow Guards. "Didn't Your Highness ask who received information about the Demon Blood Guards yesterday?" The one who sent the information back was this person. It was the person who sent the information. Beidang Wang Chuan looked at Xiaoping's portrait in disbelief. This person is a space traverser and joined the Shadow Squad. He sent the information of the Blood Demon Church? I'm afraid so. Lenny nodded. These people from the Blood Demon Church wanted to destroy these space traversers, and the information about the Blood Demon Church being destroyed happened to come from this person. Could this be a coincidence? But how could there be such a coincidence in this world? Lin Yi and Beitang Wang Chuan looked at each other. Their expressions were a little strange. Lin Yi's face even had a trace of indescribable awkwardness. A few seconds later, Beitang Wang Chuan was the first to clap his hands and laugh. Interesting. This person actually used the entire Shang dynasty and the Judgment Army as weapons and made us do it willingly. But I'm very curious. How did this person know about the Blood Demon Church? Could it be a coincidence? Lenny thought for a while and instantly cleared up the thoughts in his mind. According to this person, he came from the southern region. Among the members of the Blood Demon Church, the Tang family's elder, Tang Wei, also came from the southern region. I suspect that this person may have already known the identity of the Tang family's elder, and he coincidentally met the Tang family's elder in Shangjing City. He followed the Tang family's elder and coincidentally discovered the conspiracy of the Blood Demon Church. Then he intervened in this matter. Beitang Wang Chuan nodded. Not bad. Your speculation is reasonable. But the Blood Demon Church must be in a very secretive place to discuss important matters. This person's strength should not be strong. How did he get such accurate information? Lin Yi thought again. Previously, he obtained an illusory child's boundary pearl in the night market. Because of this boundary pearl, he caused some trouble and was wanted by the police. I suspect that he may have integrated with the illusory child's boundary pearl. He can integrate with the illusory child's boundary pearl? Beitang Wang Chuan's face showed a trace of surprise. In the entire Shang dynasty, there are only a few people who can integrate with the illusory child's boundary pearl. Why is this person wanted? Lin Yi told him about the matter of Xiaopinggan being wanted. Of course, the things that Lin Yi said were things that the ruling army knew about with evidence. As for why Sun Hao disappeared, there was no evidence that it was related to Xiaopinggan, so Lin Yi naturally did not say it. Why didn't you say this earlier? Beitang Wang Chuan asked. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and spread his hands. First, to avoid suspicion. Second, I was afraid that if we intervened, he would be exposed. Previously, I wanted him to infiltrate the Blood Demon Church. Beitang Wang Chuan sighed and shook his head. I didn't expect that the disappearance of the nephew of a small police chief in Shangjing City would involve so many things. The family of a district police chief can actually casually use the police to arrest people in Shangjing City and abuse their power. It seems that some of the rats in the police station should be cleaned up. This time, they will be cleaned up together. You can arrange the details. When the time comes, I will approve it. It will not involve the ruling army. Lin Yi saw that His Highness the Crown Prince was a little angry, so he did not say anything more. This time, cleaning up the remnants of the Blood Demon Church in Shangjing City would bring a lot of people. It was too easy to find a reason to drag some people into the water. As long as they reported it, the Crown Prince would write a big stroke, and some people would be finished. Right, what is this person's name? Beitang Wang Chuan looked at the portrait of Xiaopinggan, thought of something, and asked. This person is called Xiaopinggan. Lin Yi replied. Your Highness, please tell us how to deal with these sky traversers. Since these people are wanted by the Blood Demon Church, then we will do the opposite. They're just sky traversers. If we can make them work for our Shang dynasty, that would be the best. If we can find them, try to rope them in. This Xiaopinggan is very interesting and can be considered a great talent. If he appears again, bring him for me to take a look. Yes. Chapter 224. The 500 people in the cave were completely paralyzed. They could no longer move, like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. The only things that could move were their eyes, tongues, and throats. Therefore, they panicked, screamed, and let out the most miserable howls. They were at a loss and incomparably terrified as they welcomed their fate. This was a bottomless well. The bottom of the well was like a coliseum, and the well was surrounded by stone walls that were over 100 meters high. This place was like a natural cave, with only a sliver of sunlight shining down from above. At the bottom of the well, human skeletons were piled up like mountains. The walls around the well were filled with bloody scratches. Those scratches were the last traces left behind by the hands of despair. In addition to the scratches, there were also numerous holes on the walls of the well that made one's scalp tingle. Nobody knew what was in those holes. To the people in the well of despair, it was a living hell and a slaughterhouse. Help! I don't want to die yet. Save me. I have money. I have money. As long as you let me leave, I can agree to any conditions. Almost everyone was screaming and begging for mercy. Tears and snot flowed down their cheeks. Their screams were earth-shattering. Everyone fell to the ground, and beneath them were countless skeletons. Some of these skeletons still had rotten flesh hanging on them. The stench assailed the nostrils, and there were even maggots crawling on them. Under the ground of the skeleton, there were stones and soil that had turned black from being soaked in blood. Many people were so frightened that they lost control of their bowels. A door at the bottom of the deep well opened. In the dim light, a team of wooden puppets walked into the deep well with stiff steps and started working like machines. The puppet was as tall as a normal person. Its entire body was made of blood-stained wood. Its head was also made of wood. On its wooden head, there was a pale face with a strange smile. The wooden puppets ignored the screams of the people being dragged and carried out their orders mechanically. They dragged the hands and feet of the people whose bodies were numb and stiff like goods and lifeless objects to the middle of the deep well and arranged them into a specific pattern. It was a demon's eye. Some people were piled into a ball and became eyeballs in the eye, while others formed by sockets around the eye. It did not take long for everyone at the bottom of the deep well to be dragged to the middle of the deep well by the wooden puppets. They lay on the ground and used their bodies to form a picture, a sacrificial totem of the demon eye formed by more than 500 living people. The wooden dolls began to leave. Some of the people who had been sacrificed already knew what was going to happen next. Some cried, some cursed, some fainted, and some screamed miserably. It was like a huge and noisy noise that reverberated at the bottom of the deep well. However, those people did not know that the more tragic thing was yet to come. After the wooden puppets completely withdrew, strange snake-like insects crawled out of the dense holes on the walls around the deep well and quickly rushed toward the sacrificial totem of the demon eye. Those strange black insects crawled on the ground in bones, and the entire deep well was filled with rustling sounds that made one's scalp tingle. In just a moment, the strange insects crawled in front of a woman who had fallen to the ground. As the woman screamed in horror, the strange insects began to gnaw on her flesh and blood. Some burrowed into the woman's ears, nostrils, and mouth, and blood came out from the woman's eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. The woman's body could not move, but she was trembling violently from fear and pain. Her eyes were instantly bloodshot from fear and despair. Countless strange black insects covered the totem of the demon eye in the blink of an eye. The screams in the deep well immediately became 10 times sharper. Altar leader Ning, listen to this. This is the most beautiful sound in the world. As long as the method is right, the same sacrificial offering can yield 10 times more than a normal offering. In the words of the mortals, it's an art to squeeze out the fear of mortals. At the top of the well was a palace. A young man in a black robe, with a devilishly handsome face and a hint of blood in his eyes, was holding a scarlet wine cup. He had a smile on his face, as if he was admiring a beautiful painting. He lowered his head and looked down at the dark well, which was like purgatory on earth. Beside this young man was a middle-aged man with a cold and dangerous gaze with his head lowered. The man's attitude toward the young man was respectful. "You're right, Palace Lord." The strange black insects were wriggling. The demon eye trembled slightly, as if a demon had just woken up from its sleep and opened its eyes. Countless people's blood flowed on the ground, making the demon eye look blood-red and ferocious from the sky. The man holding the wine glass closed his eyes. He felt the powerful negative energy brought about by despair, fear, pain, and resentment flowing out of the well like water. Then it was absorbed by the surrounding space bit by bit. The lives of everyone in the deep well would eventually be transformed into the dark negative consciousness and energy. These negative things were the offerings for the demon eye's sacrificial ritual. There seemed to be a huge mouth in the invisible void that greedily sucked in the negative consciousness and energy from the deep well. The screams in the deep well were still there. They were hoarse and did not stop. A cloud of black fog flew over from afar and appeared in front of the young man. The black fog dispersed, revealing a man wearing a devil mask. He knelt on one knee on the ground and said with a trembling voice, "Palace Lord, there's an urgent report from the great Shang nation's Shangjing." "Oh, what's the matter?" Altar Lord D planned to assassinate Beitang Wangchuan and stir up the situation in the great Shang nation. Did it succeed? The assassination of Beitang Wangchuan failed. The Shangjing branch of the great Shang nation was destroyed by the Judgment Army. Altar Lord D and 7 deacons were all killed. One of the deacons self-destructed after being captured. Our sect suffered heavy losses in Shangjing. Many of our sects in the great Shang nation were also uprooted. Many of our sect members were killed or escaped. With a smack, the wine cup in the young man's hand shattered and turned into smoke. "What's going on?" The assassination was a trap. Altar Lord D and the others fell into it. None of them survived. Good Beitang Wangchuan, good great Shang nation. The young man's eyes were blood red. His voice suddenly became as shrill as a devil's and rumbled in the palace. "Let the 5 devils see me." A few minutes later, the young man sat on a blood-red throne in the palace. 5 people wearing the same golden grimace mask and long robes with different colors of red, black, purple, gold, and white stood in the palace and bowed to the young man. Among the 5 people in the palace, some of them had an extremely strange aura. Some of them had an aura that was filled with bloodlust. Some of them had an aura of death and pestilence. Some of them had an aura of nothingness. Greetings, Palace Master. The branch of our sect in Shangjing City of the Great Shang Nation has been destroyed. I'm going to send the 5 of you to lead your subordinates to Shangjing City of the Great Shang Nation. The Demon Gate is about to open, and the 9 provinces will be in chaos. The fire of our sect will be reignited wherever it was extinguished. We'll bury Shangjing City with our branch. There are hundreds of millions of mortals in Shangjing City. As for what you're going to do, it will depend on your own abilities. Yes. After receiving the mission, the 5 people's figures gradually faded. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from the palace. "Sir, we've arrived at Changle Alley." The coachman opened the door for Xia Pingon. After paying the fare, Xia Pingon walked into the alley. It took about 5 or 6 hours to travel from the Hong residence to here and through the entire Shangjing City. Today in Shangjing City, the atmosphere was slightly tense. People were searching for the remaining members of the Blood Demon Church everywhere. Teams of policemen and members of the Judgment Army could be seen on the streets from time to time. There were checkpoints set up at some intersections, and it was not easy to even call for a rental carriage. Many people heard that they were searching for the members of the Blood Demon Church and were so frightened by the words Blood Demon Church that they did not dare to go out. Xia Pingon waited for a long time before he called for a carriage. In addition to the various checkpoints along the way, when Xia Pingon returned to Changle Alley, night had fallen and the sun was about to set. Should I buy a carriage and a horse? Otherwise, it would be really inconvenient to travel in Shangjing City. If I want to buy a carriage, I'll have to hire a coachman. Xia Pingon muttered in his heart. He walked back to the courtyard he rented, took out his key, and opened the door. The black dragon immediately welcomed him and licked Xia Pingon's hand, indicating that everything in the courtyard was normal. Just as Xia Pingon was about to walk towards the secret underground room and prepare to fuse with the Realm Pearl, a strange sound rang in Xia Pingon's ears. He turned his head and saw a long piece of tied bedsheet hanging down from an osmanthus tree on the east wall of his courtyard. The bedsheet was knotted like a strange rope and was swung over from the other side of the wall. Xiao Pingan walked in front of the sheet and raised his head to take a look. He remembered that the neighbor on the east side of the small courtyard was also an extremely wealthy family in Shangjing City. The courtyard next door was even more imposing and grand than the Hong Fu. Xiao Pingan looked at the bedsheet and was confused. What was the meaning of this? Was the stupid thief in the big house next door going to climb over this bedsheet? Just as Xiao Pingan looked up at the wall above him, there was a low cry of surprise. A figure holding her skirt and climbing up the wall directly fell down from the wall. Chapter 225. Ouch! The person on top let out a cry of surprise. The long sheet in one hand fell directly to the ground. Seeing someone fall from above, and it was a woman, Xiao Pingan didn't think too much about it. He just stretched out his hand and caught the figure that fell from above. A fragrant wind blew into his arms. Then, both of them were stunned. The person caught by Xiao Pingan was a beautiful girl in a blue dress. She was about 18 or 19 years old and looked like an angel. The girl had beautiful long hair and an angelic face. Her skin was as white as porcelain, and her lips were as soft as flower petals. Her nose was high, and her eyes were as clear as autumn water. Her eyes shone brightly, and there was a hint of mischief and fierceness in them. The two of them looked at each other silently for a few seconds. The girl's face was like a kaleidoscope. First, she was shocked, then she was glad, and then she was a little angry. "Put me down. Are you trying to take advantage of this, lady?" Xiao Pingan let go and took a step back. The girl cried out again and fell from Xiao Pingan's hands. She fell to the ground, and her cute eyebrows wrinkled. "What are you doing?" The girl rubbed her waist and stood up, glaring at Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan shrugged. "You asked me to let go." The girl was speechless. She could only glare at Xiao Pingan fiercely. "I don't know what you're here for. My door is over there. If you have any business, you can knock on the door. You don't have to climb over the wall." What business can I have with you? I'm just passing by your courtyard. Don't think too much." The girl patted the dust off her dress and snorted proudly. She ignored Xiao Pingan and walked directly to the door of Xiao Pingan's courtyard, as if it was her own home. As Xiao Pingan spoke, he used his remote vision to look at the wall. He saw that there was a staircase leaning against the wall of the opposite courtyard. This girl actually escaped from the courtyard next door. Interesting, but she probably did not have much experience in escaping. The girl climbed up the wall in the middle. Although she thought of tying the quilt into a rope to climb down, before the quilt was completely tied to the wall, the girl fell from the wall. However, for a rich and powerful family like the one next door, there shouldn't be a shortage of bodyguards. It was normal to have a few experts. How could they let a living person climb down the stairs from the wall just after dark? This was simply a joke. Did they treat those bodyguards as idiots? Xiao Pingan was puzzled. He used his remote vision ability to climb over the wall and carefully scanned the courtyard on the other side. In an instant, he discovered something. It turned out that in the courtyard next door where this woman had climbed over the wall, there were two servant girls holding their breaths and hiding behind a wall, peeking at this side. Several bodyguards were also helplessly looking at the sky in the courtyard next door with their arms crossed. Suddenly, Xiao Pingan's remote vision met with another remote vision. Xiao Pingan saw a woman in her 30s in a room of the big house next door. She was wearing a palace costume and was staring at the girl beside him with her remote vision. That woman did not expect that Xiao Pingan could also use remote vision. When their abilities met, they discovered each other at the same time. It was like two people who were walking around a corner suddenly bumping into each other. They were both startled. It turned out that someone had been watching this girl. Perhaps someone was secretly protecting her. No wonder. A woman's indifferent voice suddenly sounded in Xiao Pingan's ears. Only he could hear it. "My family's young miss likes to fool around. Young master, please pretend that you don't know anything. You will definitely be rewarded." It turned out that a large group of people were playing house with the girl, putting on a show of the young Mrs. Great Escape. Xiao Pingan immediately understood. However, that voice also made Xiao Pingan's heart tremble. This ability was not something an ordinary summoner could grasp. It was said that only summoners above the three-sun realm could grasp it, and the woman in the palace costume just now seemed to be a servant. While they were talking, the beautiful girl had already opened the door to Xia Pinggan's courtyard. She stuck her head out and cautiously looked at the alley outside. Then, she lifted her skirt and slipped out in an instant. Looking at the sheet on the ground, Xia Pinggan shook his head and smiled bitterly. He picked up the sheet and threw it directly into the courtyard next door. Then, he walked to the door of the courtyard and closed it again. Oh no, the young miss is missing. Only then did Xia Pinggan hear the panicked voices of a few maidservants coming from the courtyard next door. Xia Pinggan could not be bothered with them. He returned to the living room and sensed that he was no longer being watched by the remote vision ability. He was about to go to the underground secret room to fuse with the realm pearl. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Hurried knocks came from outside the courtyard. Using his long-distance vision ability, he saw that the person knocking on the door was the young girl who had just escaped. The young girl had a guilty look on her face as she hid under the pavilion. While knocking on Xia Pinggan's door, she guiltily looked at the alley outside. Xia Pinggan helplessly slapped his forehead. He could only return to the courtyard and open the door. The girl flashed in again. Patting her chest, she said with a frightened look, "That was close. There's someone outside. I was almost discovered." After saying that, the girl realized that Xia Pinggan was glaring at her. The girl blushed slightly. Can I hide here for a while?" Fearing that Xia Pinggan would refuse, the girl hurriedly added, "I can give you money." As she spoke, the girl fished out a handful of gold coins from her purse. There were more than 10 gold coins in total. She stuffed them into Xia Pinggan's hands and asked uneasily, "Is this enough?" This girl did not seem to understand how much money could be used to do. Xia Pinggan took the gold coins and put them into his pocket. "That's enough. You can hide in that room." Xia Pinggan pointed at the study near the courtyard. "If someone comes to look for me later, just tell them that I've left." "Got it," the girl added. "Don't worry. Since I've taken your money, I'll keep my mouth shut." Hearing Xia Pinggan's agreement, the girl hurriedly ran into the study and hid. Xia Pinggan stroked his chin. He thought to himself, since you want to play house, I'll just be an extra. Anyway, I can earn money pretty fast. Xia Pinggan returned to the living room and made himself a pot of tea. After sitting for a while, he heard a knock on the door. Xia Pinggan went to open the door. Several guards of the big house next door were standing outside with lanterns in their hands. "Young master, did a young lady just climb over the wall next door? Did you see her?" A bodyguard asked politely. His voice was so loud that the whole courtyard could hear him. "I saw her. After that young lady climbed over the wall, she didn't stay for long and left immediately." "Young master, do you know where that young lady went?" "I don't know." "Okay, sorry to disturb you." After the guards left, Xia Pinggan closed the door again and returned to the living room. He found that the girl had already run out of the study and was looking around the living room curiously. The black dragon was sitting in the living room and staring at the girl. He was doing his job. "You're not bad," the girl said to Xia Pinggan with her hands behind her back. She seemed to be praising him. "Although you're a little greedy, you're trustworthy and didn't let me down. By the way, what's your name?" "My name is Yang Cheng." Xia Pinggan smiled and returned to his seat. "What about you? What's your name?" The girl rolled her eyes. "My name is Chow Chow." "You can call me Chow Chow." Xia Pinggan curled his lips. He thought to himself, even if it's a fake name, your fake name is too sloppy. However, whether it was sloppy or not had nothing to do with Xia Pinggan. He didn't care about that. "There's a guest room over there. The bedsheets and bedding are all new. They're in the cupboard and haven't been used. If you want to stay here tonight, you can make the bed in the guest room. If you don't want to stay here, you can leave at any time." "Well, I'm going to take a rest. I won't chat with you any longer." Under the shocked gaze of the girl, Xia Pinggan deliberately yawned. After that, he directly opened the entrance of the basement and entered the underground backroom. After that, he separated from the girl and left her in the living room. After leaving the girl and entering the basement, Zhang Tai closed the door of the basement. After that, the feeling of being watched by someone with the ability to see from afar completely disappeared. That woman with the ability to see from afar would only stare at that girl. If she stared at Zhang Tai, it would be too rude. Additionally, Zhang Tai could sense it. Therefore, she would not be so stupid and rude. After arriving at the basement, Xia Pingon calmly summoned 2 slave soldiers to guard the door. After that, he called out the boy of fortune from the secret mandala to stand guard for him. After that, he took out the realm pearl. The first realm pearl had 4 faintly discernible Xiaozhuan characters on it. Repeated orders. This realm pearl was called Realm Pearl of Cannon Fodder. After fusing with it, Zhang Tai could master a spell. That spell could organize all the farmer, technician, and so on from the secret mandala to fight on the battlefield like soldiers. Although the organized summoned figures were not very powerful, they were more obedient. To be honest, the summoning spell of this realm pearl was of little value. However, because the death rate of fusing with this realm pearl was very low, it was not difficult to fuse with it. Therefore, it was not cheap. The story of repeated orders originated from the records of the Grand Historian, the biography of Sun Tzu Wuqi. It was a story about how Sun Tzu used the concubines and maids of King Wu's harem to practice his military tactics. Many people were familiar with this story. It was even simpler for Xia Pingon. After being enveloped by a cocoon of light for less than 5 minutes, the cocoon of light shattered. Xia Pingon fused with it perfectly and gained 20 points of divine power. His total divine power limit instantly reached 1,322 points. He was 1 step closer to the 2 sun realms' 1,470 points. Xia Pingon continued to take out the second realm pearl. Chapter 226. In the secret underground room, the purple cocoon on Xia Pingon's body shattered again. Xia Pingon opened his eyes again. He had just fused with another realm pearl. This was the 6th realm pearl that he had fused with tonight. The name of the realm pearl he had just fused with was Sun Kong Ing Snow. The story of Ing Snow was similar to that of Capsule Firefly. The spells they obtained were also similar. The only difference was that after fusing with the Capsule Firefly realm pearl, the spell they obtained was to summon fireflies and use the light emitted by the fireflies to see their surroundings. However, after fusing with the Ing Snow realm pearl, the spell they obtained was to strengthen the vision of others in the dark. One was a summoning spell used by oneself, while the other was a buff spell used by others. These 2 spells were both minor spells. They weren't very powerful, but they could be used sometimes. Summoners didn't mind mastering more spells. For Xia Pingon, fusing realm pearls was like eating dumplings. As long as he had the realm pearls in hand, he basically knew how to eat them just by looking at the words on the realm pearls. The flow of time in the realm pearls was completely different from the flow of time in the real world. Therefore, it only took him 3 hours to fuse with the 6 realm pearls. In Xia Pingon's secret mandala, after fusing with the realm pearl Sun Kong Ing Snow, the upper limit of his divine power had reached 1,437 points. He was very close to the 2 sun realm. After fusing with the 6 realm pearls, Xia Pingon's secret mandala's divine hall had some changes. In addition to the stone relief of the palace maids and concubines, he had just obtained a stone relief of Sun Kong Ing Snow. On the relief sculpture of Sun Kong reflects snow, the snowy ground was a vast expanse of whiteness, and the hexagonal snowflakes floating in the air could be clearly seen. Those snowflakes were sparkling and translucent, and a little bit of godly power could summon a snowflake to empower a person. In addition to these 2 reliefs, there were 4 more scrolls around the divine hall. They were the 4 realm pearls that Xia Pingon had fused with tonight. The 4 realm pearls were very easy to fuse with and were very interesting. Xia Pingon became a bystander of Shang Yang's reform. When Shang Yang gave a reward of 10 gold coins to people to move wood at the city gate, Xia Pingon became the one who moved the wood. After moving the wood, Xia Pingon became Xie, and who played chess with the guests during the Battle of Fei River. He didn't need to do anything. After receiving the news of the victory, he continued to play chess with others casually. This realm pearl seemed to be the simplest, but it was actually the most difficult. The most difficult part of fusing with this realm pearl was not to do anything, but to do nothing and continue playing chess. This realm pearl also ignited the word quiet in the Divine Hall. After the game of chess, Xiao Pingan once again became Yin Zi and went on a diplomatic mission to Chu. The realm pearl of Yin Zi on a diplomatic mission to Chu contributed the most godly power, directly increasing Xiao Pingan's godly power limit by 60 points. Yin Zi was neither servile nor overbearing. He was extremely witty and easily resolved several diplomatic crises. He didn't lose his and Qi's dignity in Chu and even made Chu look bad. He could be said to be the model of diplomacy. After pretending to be the short Yin Zi for a while, Xiao Pingan transformed into Zhou Ji, a handsome man from the Warring States period who was 8 feet tall. He mocked King Wei of Qi, and because of this, Zhou Ji also left behind a good reputation. One more realm pearl, and I should be able to reach the Two-Sun realm. Xiao Pingan muttered to himself before taking out the 7th realm pearl. The 7th realm bead was cyan in color. There was a storm raging inside the realm bead. The realm bead was said to be a cavalry realm bead when Xiao Pingan bought it. Once the realm bead was fused, it could summon a cavalry that could easily kill demonic fire spiders. The strongest cavalry that this realm bead could summon was called the Storm Cavalry. They were known as the strongest ground cavalry of the Shang dynasty. The main force of the Storm Army that guarded the northern border of the Shang dynasty was made up of summoners who could summon the Storm Cavalry. The special thing about this realm pearl was that no divine sense crystal had ever been able to unlock it. At the same time, the death rate of fusing with this realm pearl was as high as 30%. Those who were brave and fearless would have a higher success rate, while those who were cowardly would have a higher death rate. Many summoners with good conditions would refuse to fuse with this realm pearl that was full of danger and did not have a standard answer. Therefore, the price of this realm pearl was not considered expensive. Those who dared to fuse with this realm pearl were brave and fearless summoners. In other words, they were hotheads. For words in Xiaozhuan flashed on the realm pearl. Men of Yin Zhao. This was the first time Xiao Pingan had encountered a realm pearl that did not have a specific person's name or event. Instead, it appeared in the image of a region or group of people. The curiosity brought about by the unknown was the most important reason why Xiao Pingan decided to buy this realm pearl. Yin Zhao? Cavalry? After playing with this realm pearl for a while, some historical scenes flashed through his mind. Xiao Pingan smiled and pricked his finger with a silver needle. He dripped 2 drops of blood on the realm pearl. Soon, Xiao Pingan was surrounded by a green cocoon of light. A piercing pain, a heart-wrenching pain. The moment Xiao Pingan opened his eyes and regained consciousness, he felt a burning sensation on his left shoulder. At the same time, there was a heavy object pressing down on his body, making it difficult for him to breathe. At the same time, there was a series of screams, the sound of hooves, and cries echoing in his ears. Xiao Pingan opened his eyes and found himself on the ground. There was an arrow in his left shoulder, and his body was pressed down by a fallen horse. In front of him was a village filled with smoke and flames in the twilight. Houses were set ablaze one after another. They were burning and emitting thick smoke. Women were crying helplessly. Men, the elderly, and children were being wantonly shot and killed by a group of cavalry on horseback. The cavalry that was wreaking havoc in the village were obviously from a different race. Most of them were short and stout, with large round heads, wide faces, high cheekbones, wide noses, thick beards on their upper lips, and only a small tuft of beard below their chin. Their long earlobes were pierced, and they wore earrings. They had thick eyebrows, almond-shaped eyes, and a gaze as fierce as a wolf's. These people were wearing loose robes that were long enough to reach their calves. They had belts around their waists, and because of the cold, the sleeves were tightened around their wrists. Each of them had a short fur scarf around their shoulders, and each of them wore a leather hat. They were holding bows and long spears, and were wreaking havoc in the village. They were laughing loudly. The women were captured on horseback, and the men who were resisting, including the young boys and the elderly, were all shot and stabbed to death. The men in the village didn't wait for the butcher's knives and arrows to fall. Instead, they gritted their teeth and fought with the fierce cavalry. They were abnormally tenacious, but because there were too many cavalry on horseback, the villagers were caught off guard, and their weapons weren't as good as the cavalry's. The men in the village who resisted were all separated by the cavalry and fought for themselves. They were completely no match for the cavalry. The cavalry's archery was very powerful. Xiao Pingan had just opened his eyes when he saw a man roaring and rushing out of a house with a kitchen knife. He had just pulled down a cavalry rider who was riding past him on a horse and was riding on the Xiongnu rider. He viciously chopped down on the rider's neck, almost severing the rider's neck in half. But in the blink of an eye, a cavalry rider in the distance suddenly turned his head, drew his bow, and shot an arrow into the eye of the man with the kitchen knife, killing him and throwing him to the ground. The cavalry's appearance and attire immediately made Xia Pingan think of two words, Xiongnu. Looking at the horses that the Xiongnu rode without stirrups and the attire of the villagers who were shot, Xiao Pingan immediately understood that he was in the Warring States period. Xiao Pingan looked at the ground beside him and saw a short spear. The horse that was on top of him was already dead. There were several arrows in the horse's body, and the horse's stomach had been pierced by the long spear. There was a 1-foot-long wound, and the horse's intestines and blood were flowing out. The horse's neck and a small part of its body were pressed against Xia Pingan's left leg. It was abnormally heavy. Xiao Pingan clenched his teeth and closed his eyes. He wanted to pull his leg out from under the horse's neck first. A Xiongnu rider rushed in front of Xiao Pingan. That Xiongnu rider thought that Xiao Pingan was already dead. Seeing the short spear on the ground beside Xiao Pingan, the Xiongnu rider controlled the reins with one hand and leaned down from the horse. He bent down and displayed his beautiful horsemanship, wanting to pick up the short spear on the ground. The spearhead of the short spear was made of copper and was very sharp. These metal weapons were very precious to the Xiongnu people. Seeing the Xiongnu soldier bending down to pick up the short spear on the ground, Xiao Pingan clenched his teeth. The moment the Xiongnu soldier was about to reach the short spear, Xiao Pingan grabbed the wrist of the Xiongnu soldier. Borrowing the strength of the Xiongnu soldier's horse, Xiao Pingan dragged him out from under the crushed horse. That Xiongnu rider was shocked. He didn't expect Xiao Pingan to still be alive. When he pulled Xiao Pingan out from under the horse, Xiao Pingan had already pulled him off the horse and rolled him on the ground. Hashtag dollar hashtag. That Xiongnu rider shouted loudly and spoke in Xiongnu language. Xiao Pingan didn't understand what that Xiongnu rider was saying, but he could clearly see that Xiongnu rider's movements. The moment that Xiongnu rider fell to the ground, he pressed Xiao Pingan under his body and reached for Xiao Pingan's neck with one hand. He glared at Xiao Pingan fiercely while his other hand reached for the short dagger at his waist. Xiao Pingan's left shoulder was injured and couldn't exert much strength. At this moment of life and death, he couldn't care less. Therefore, he only did one thing. He used the thumb and index finger of his hand that could still move to dig into that Xiongnu's eyes. Chapter 227. In a battle of life and death, there were no rules to speak of. Since Xiao Pingan could only move with one hand, he would naturally inflict as much damage as he could. Xiao Pingan stabbed 2 fingers into the eye sockets of the Xiongnu cavalryman. The feeling was like stabbing 2 rotten apples in warm water. It was an indescribable feeling. Xiao Pingan viciously dug his fingers out, and the Xiongnu cavalryman's eyes exploded. One of his eyeballs was poked blind in his eye socket, while the other was dug out and hung from his eye socket like a jar of soy sauce. Xiao Pingan understood the Xiongnu cavalryman's miserable shriek. The Xiongnu cavalryman, who was about to grab his dagger, trembled and instinctively covered his ugly face with his hands as he screamed. The hand gripping Xiao Pingan's neck also loosened, and Xiao Pingan's breathing returned to normal. In the next second, Xiao Pingan gritted his teeth and used his right hand to break the arrow in his body. Then, he used the broken arrow shaft to viciously stab the Xiongnu cavalryman's main artery. Once, twice, thrice, Xiao Pingan stabbed the Xiongnu cavalryman's neck more than 10 times until it was a bloody mess. After piercing the Xiongnu cavalryman's main artery, blood spurted out from his neck like a fountain. Not far away, a Xiongnu cavalryman saw the situation and let out a strange cry. He drew his bow and shot an arrow at Xia Pinggan. Almost as soon as he heard the sound of the arrow piercing through the air, Xia Pinggan pulled down the Xiongnu cavalryman with blood spurting out from his neck and used him as a shield. PFFF. The arrow hit the Xiongnu meat shield. In the next second, Xia Pinggan swiftly pulled out a dagger from the waist of the Hun meat shield. He then pushed the Hun meat shield aside and rolled behind a pile of firewood by the side of the road. After dodging the Hun cavalry's arrows, Xia Pinggan stood up from the ground. Hearing the sound of hooves, the Xiongnu cavalryman was already charging towards Xia Pinggan. Fuck! Xia Pinggan finally understood why the death rate of this realm bead was so high. Just now, if other people who had fused with the realm bead faced the same situation, many of them would have died. Fortunately, even though his body was injured and his left hand was inconvenient, his body was still quite strong. He felt that his skin was thick and his flesh was thick, so he could endure being hit. Behind the pile of firewood was an earthen wall. There was no way to retreat. Xia Pinggan's right hand tightly gripped the dagger as he listened to the rapidly approaching sound of horse hooves. At the same time, he silently counted in his heart. 3, 2, 1. By the time he counted to 1, the Xiongnu cavalryman's horse had already charged over from the side of the road, revealing half of its body. Xia Pinggan didn't retreat. Instead, he advanced. He rolled on the ground and pounced toward the horse. The Xiongnu cavalryman's bow was fully drawn. He looked over with a cold gaze as he leaned to the side, facing behind the pile of firewood. The moment he saw Xia Pinggan, the bowstring loosened. Xiao! An arrow shot towards Xia Pinggan. That arrow almost brushed past Xia Pinggan's ear and almost exploded Xia Pinggan's head. The Xiongnu cavalryman's arrow missed. Xia Pinggan had already rolled onto the horse's belly. Xia Pinggan held the dagger in his right hand and suddenly jumped up. He stabbed the Xiongnu cavalryman's calf and fiercely slashed downwards. The daggers used by the Xiongnu people were very sharp and could easily pierce through flesh. Xia Pinggan's stab left a huge wound 2 inches deep and half a foot long on the Xiongnu cavalryman's calf. The Xiongnu cavalryman, who didn't have a stirrup and had been shooting arrows with both hands, groaned and fell from his horse. Without waiting for the Xiongnu cavalryman to react, Xia Pinggan's second stab directly slashed the Xiongnu cavalryman's neck and sent him to the afterlife. Xia Pinggan's vision darkened, and he felt a little dizzy from the continuous fierce fighting and the loss of blood. However, he didn't collapse. Seeing the Xiongnu dogs burning, killing, and looting the village, Xia Pinggan gritted his teeth and put the dagger back into his waist. He used his left hand to grab the reins of the ownerless Xiongnu cavalryman's horse and rushed to the place where he had landed. He picked up the short spear on the ground and flipped onto the horse. His legs squeezed the horse's belly, and the horse began to gallop, charging towards a nearby Xiongnu cavalryman without hesitation. Xia Pinggan used his right hand to wrap the reins around his left hand. His left hand barely held onto the reins as his legs squeezed the horse's belly tightly and his chest pressed tightly against the horse's back. He lowered his body and held his short spear in his right hand as he charged towards the Xiongnu cavalryman like a charging knight. Not far away, the Xiongnu cavalryman had just walked out of thatched cottage. He carried an unconscious woman on his back and held a bloody knife in his hand. He laughed sinisterly and threw the woman onto his horse. Then, he turned around and threw a torch onto the roof of the thatched cottage. When the Xiongnu cavalryman got on his horse, he saw a horse charging towards him. There didn't seem to be anyone on the horse. When the horse charged in the blink of an eye, the Xiongnu cavalryman finally saw Xia Pinggan sprawled on the horse's back. The Xiongnu cavalryman was shocked and hurriedly took out his bow and shot an arrow at Xia Pinggan. Because Xia Pinggan was sprawled on the horse's back, the arrow brushed past Xia Pinggan's back and didn't hit its mark. A vicious glint flashed across the Xiongnu cavalryman's eyes as he drew his bow again and shot a second arrow at Xia Pinggan. This time, the Xiongnu cavalryman didn't aim for Xia Pinggan's upper body or vital points. Instead, he aimed for Xia Pinggan's leg. Xia Pinggan's legs squeezed the horse's belly and couldn't avoid it. The arrow hit Xia Pinggan's thigh and sank into his flesh. Xia Pinggan gritted his teeth and didn't make a sound. After these two arrows, the distance between the two sides had shortened considerably. The Xiongnu cavalryman quickly knocked an arrow and was about to shoot a third arrow at Xia Pinggan. This time, the distance between the two sides was less than 10 meters. The instant the Xiongnu cavalryman shot the third arrow, Xia Pinggan used the short spear in his hand to viciously stab the horse's buttocks. The horse's buttocks bled, and the galloping horse was agitated. With a long neigh, it kicked off in all directions and moved as fast as lightning. Because the Xiongnu cavalryman hadn't expected Xia Pinggan's horse to suddenly accelerate, the Xiongnu cavalryman's third arrow hit the horse's neck. The galloping horse charged forward several meters before suddenly falling to the ground. Xia Pinggan had already let go of the reins in his hands. Borrowing the momentum of the horse's galloping momentum, he leapt off the horse's back like a ferocious tiger. His entire body, along with his short spear, fiercely crashed into the Xiongnu cavalryman. Crack! The impact was so powerful that the bones in the Xiongnu cavalryman's chest cracked. The Xiongnu cavalryman spat out a mouthful of blood and fell off his horse with Xia Pinggan, landing heavily on the ground. The Xiongnu cavalryman was below, while Xia Pinggan was above. Once again, he used the Xiongnu cavalryman's body as a meat cushion. Before the Xiongnu cavalryman could land on the ground, Xia Pinggan's short spear had already pierced the Xiongnu cavalryman's lower abdomen. The Xiongnu cavalryman fell to the ground and stopped breathing. Covered in blood, Xia Pinggan's vision turned black again. He shakily stood up from the Xiongnu cavalryman's body. In front of him, another Xiongnu cavalryman saw Xia Pinggan. He held a short knife in his hand and urged his horse to charge at Xia Pinggan. He raised his short knife and slashed at Xia Pinggan's neck. When the Xiongnu cavalryman was less than 10 meters away, a smile appeared on Xia Pinggan's blood-stained face. He threw the short spear in his right hand. The short spear cut through the air and nailed the Xiongnu cavalryman in the chest with a thud. The Xiongnu cavalryman was nailed off his horse and fell to the ground. This move seemed to have exhausted all the energy in Xia Pinggan's body. He could no longer stand. His vision turned black and he felt dizzy. He swayed a few times and fell to the ground. Two Xiongnu cavalrymen came out from behind the thatched hut and saw Xia Pinggan on the ground. They also saw the corpses around Xia Pinggan. Their expressions changed, and they were about to charge over. F***CK. I'm not going to die here, right? Xia Pinggan cursed in his heart. At this moment, his entire body felt weak, and his head turned black. He could no longer stand. Woo-woo-woo. A horn suddenly sounded from the hills outside the village. Gate of Yin. The cavalrymen from Gate of Yin are here. Those in the village who were still resisting shouted. Hearing the horn, the two Xiongnu cavalrymen who wanted to charge over panicked. They looked at each other and turned their horses to flee. The thunderous sound of hooves sounded outside the village. Xia Pinggan looked at the distant hill. A large flag with the word Zhao appeared on the hill. Behind the flag was a large group of cavalrymen. Zhao. It was the Gate of Yin of the state of Zhao. This was the last thought that flashed through Xia Pinggan's mind. Then, his vision turned black and he fainted. Chapter 228. Xia Pinggan opened his eyes when he felt a strange sensation on his shoulder. As soon as he opened his eyes, he felt a sharp pain on his left shoulder, which made him break out in a cold sweat. Then, Xia Pinggan found himself lying on a simple wooden bed in a straw hut. Many injured villagers were lying in the straw hut. Not far away, the thatched cottages in the village were still burning. The smaller fires had just been extinguished and were still smoking. In the village, there were faint cries and cries everywhere, and the atmosphere was gloomy and miserable. His chest was exposed, and a skinny old man in linen clothes was standing in front of the bed. He was using a tool to pull out the arrow from his left shoulder that was leaning against his chest. Hold him down and don't let him move, or else he will bleed even more. The old man did not seem to notice that Xia Pingan had woken up. He lowered his head to pull out the arrow on Xia Pingan's body while instructing the two people beside the bed. The two men in cavalry uniforms of the kingdom of Zhao stood by the bed and held down Xia Pingan's hands and waist, afraid that Xia Pingan would move. In addition to his left shoulder, Xia Pingan found that his pants were also cut open. The arrow on his thigh was also removed and bandaged. "No need to hold me down, I can bear it. I won't move," Xia Pingan said. Once he opened his mouth, he found that his voice was hoarse and weak. At this moment, the three people beside the bed found that Xia Pingan had woken up. The old man glanced at Xia Pingan and smiled, the wrinkles on his face squeezing together. "You are indeed a young man with a strong body. You have lost so much blood after being hit by 2 arrows, but you woke up so quickly. Don't worry, those 2 arrows did not hit your vital parts. You are so strong. So, as long as you take some medicine and don't get a fever, you'll be able to recover in a few days." That old man should be a doctor. Xia Pingan glanced to the side and found that there was a box next to his clothes. Inside the box were earth elm, sephora flower, immortal stork grass, purple pearl, hearth soil, and other things. "Kid, you're not bad. I heard that you killed 4 Xiongnu even though you were injured. Good job. You'll definitely survive." One of the 2 soldiers from the kingdom of Zhao looked at Xia Pingan with admiration and said to Xia Pingan. As the soldier from the kingdom of Zhao spoke, the old man in linen clothes was ready to bandage Xia Pingan's wound with hemostatic medicine. Looking at the herbs used by the old man and the linen strips that had not been sterilized, Xia Pingan was alarmed and hurriedly said, "Doctor, these 2 herbs, earthworm and Sephora japonica, are wrong. Although these 2 herbs can stop the bleeding, they're more suitable for bleeding due to blood heat. What I have now is a sword wound. All right, do you have horsetooth grass? If you can find horsetooth grass, the wound will heal faster." The old man should only be a village doctor with ordinary medical skills and did not know much about the medicinal properties of those herbs. After hearing Xia Pingan's words, the old man in linen clothes suddenly stopped. Not only him, but also the 2 soldiers beside him looked at Xia Pingan in astonishment. You know how to use medicine?" The old man asked cautiously with a different tone. "I used to be bien Quebec. How could I not know how to use medicine?" Xia Pingan forced a smile. After others integrated with the realm bead, the things they learned from the realm bead would disappear from their memory due to the existence of the realm bead. However, Xia Pingan did not. Therefore, he knew all the methods that BNK knew. The most famous doctor from the Warring States period was lying here, yet the old man asked him whether he knew how to use medicine. In this era, being a doctor was a high-level skill that ordinary people could hardly master. Medical books, such as the Compendium of Materia Medica, had not been published yet. Most doctors learned their skills from their masters. Therefore, they knew what their masters taught them. Those who could tell the names of those herbs and their medicinal properties were rare wherever they went. Yes, I met an old man in the mountains before. That old man taught me some things. That's right, don't use those linen cloths to wrap your wounds. Put those linen cloths in a pot and boil them in hot water. After they are dried, use them to wrap your wounds. The possibility of pus and ulceration is very small," Xia Pingan quickly said. Hearing Xia Pingan's words, the old man was even more surprised. His attitude towards Xia Pingan became more respectful. He asked cautiously, "What exactly is the horsetooth centipede that you mentioned?" The horsetooth centipede could reduce inflammation and prevent wound infection. However, these things were very complicated to explain. Xia Pingan could only say, "I don't know what it is either. I only know that it is useful for wounds." The horsetooth centipede is hairless. Its stems lie flat on the ground, and its branches are light green or dark red. It should be found everywhere. This thing, I seem to have seen it before. The old man revealed a look of reminiscence. Then, he glanced at the wounds on Xia Pingan's body and was slightly embarrassed. The arrowhead on your body has been pulled out. Now, what do you think we should do? Do you have any silver needles on you?" Xia Pingan asked. The old man suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Silver needles were the doctor's medical tools, so the old man naturally brought them with him. However, he brought the silver needles just to put up a front. Using silver needles was a high-level skill, and even his master didn't know how to do it. He didn't know much about it, let alone using silver needles to treat this kind of arrow wound. I did bring them, but the old man wanted to say that he did not know how to use them, but he was a little embarrassed. Let me try, Xiao said. The old man quickly and carefully took out a needle bag wrapped in cloth from his medicine box. He opened it and handed it to Xiao. Inside the needle bag were 4-inch long, thin silver needles. Xiao right hand could still move. He sat up and looked at the silver needles. He took out a silver needle and pricked the Liangqiu Yin Bai and other acupuncture points on his body a few times. The wound on his shoulder stopped bleeding in an instant. As soon as an expert made a move, one would know whether or not he was an expert. The old man had only heard of using silver needles to stop bleeding, but he had never seen it before. This was because this was the method of a top doctor. The old man's master did not know how to do it. Seeing Xiao so skillful, the old man and the two soldiers next to him widened their eyes, as if they were looking at a miracle. The two soldiers of Zhao had been on the battlefield for many years. They had seen a lot of injuries and bleeding, but they had never seen anyone with such a method. If the old man still had some doubts about Xiao words, then now he no longer had any doubts about Xiao ability. Instead, he respected him like a celestial being. With the silver needles, things would be easier. Xiao pricked himself with a few needles. The effect was immediate. The pain of the wound, the bleeding, and other symptoms were greatly alleviated. Later, Xiao made up new medicine and let the old man apply it to his wound. The old man also found new linen and bandaged Xiao wound. As for the rest of the linen, he let the women in the village boil water and dry them in the sun before using them. The old man also applied the new medicine to the wounds of the other injured villagers, according to Xiao instructions. The treatment of the entire straw hut unknowingly became led by Xiao. The old man became Xiao assistant and listened to everything he said. While listening to Xiao words, the old man wasn't unhappy at all. On the contrary, he was somewhat happy. This was because for a doctor, Xiao could tell him what to do, how to prescribe medicine, and how to deal with those wounds. This was an imparting of skills. For a doctor, such an opportunity was simply something that could only be encountered by chance. When the two soldiers who were by Xiao bedside saw Xiao ability, they looked at each other and exchanged glances. One of the soldiers immediately ran away while the other stayed by Xiao side. He looked around vigilantly and assumed the posture of a guard. In less than 10 minutes, an armored general of the kingdom of Zhao strode over to the straw hut, escorted by a group of cavalrymen and captains. At this time, several women in the village had already boiled the sackcloth in hot water and brought the dried sackcloth over. The sun above their heads was very strong. It didn't take long for the boiled sackcloth to be dried in the sun. Those who were injured and waiting for treatment here were all men in the village. Therefore, the women in the village worked very quickly. When the Zhao Kingdom's general came, Xiao could already get out of bed and move around. He was teaching the old man how to press on the blood vessels and use bandages to quickly bandage an injured villager to stop the bleeding. Many people were watching curiously from the side. The villager's wound was quickly treated by the old man. The general glanced at the side and directly walked to Xiao. He squeezed out a smile on his face and said, "I heard that your name is Xiao. You're a ranger of this village." Hearing this, Xiao was stunned. After fusing with so many realm beads, this was the first time that he heard someone call his name in the realm bead. Could it be that this realm bead of Yin Zhao allowed the fused person to act as himself in the world of the realm bead? Previously, he felt that this realm bead was very strange. It actually only covered a region. The characters were also group characters. There was no specific role at all. Xiao looked at the expressions of the surrounding villagers. They looked as if they were used to this. Rangers did appear during the Warring States period. For example, the Tianguang that Xia Pinggan became last time was an outstanding ranger. He changed from a ranger to a hero. Especially in the land of Yinzhao, it had always been the frontier of the agricultural civilization and the nomadic civilization. Since ancient times, the people there were valiant. There were rangers everywhere. From the perspective of later generations, the role of a ranger was a security guard in the village or a youth who mingled with the society. The high-ranking ones were the retainers, bodyguards, and VIPs of the rich and noble class. Rangers were a social career for many young people to seek opportunities and survive in life. Ahem. Pingyan, the general, is asking you a question. A villager saw Xia Pinggan in a daze and reminded him. Xia Pinggan greets the general. Xia Pinggan bowed to the general. Chapter 229. Seeing that Xia Pinggan's attitude was neither servile nor overbearing, the Zhao general's expression became even gentler. I am Lu Qi, the UG general at Gate of Yinmen. I heard that you killed a few Xiongnu in the village today. Those Xiongnu killed my fellow villagers. It's only right that I kill them. Only right that it's only right. The general clapped his hands in admiration and said hatefully, those Xiongnu are like jackals and wolves, cruel and vicious. Year after year, they invade our borders, kill our Zhao people, rape and pillage, and do everything. How can we men tolerate that? Let those Xiongnu bully our country and humiliate our people. Kill them all, and protect our country and our neighbors. That's what we men should do. General is right. Xia Pinggan agreed. Only dead Xiongnu are good Xiongnu. Living Xiongnu should all be killed. Ah, well said. I just heard from my subordinates that you met a strange person in the mountains who learned excellent medical skills. In the Gate of Yinmen camp, there are often soldiers who are injured in battle with the Xiongnu and are in urgent need of medical treatment. I wonder if you are willing to come with me to the Gate of Yinmen camp. With your ability, why do you need to be a ranger? You can make a name for yourself in the army and achieve something. May I ask who is the commanding general of the Gate of Yinmen camp? Hearing Xia Pinggan's question, UG General Lu Qi was slightly surprised, but he still said, I won't hide it from you. In the past 2 days, there has been news from the Gate of Yintai camp that the commander-in-chief of the Gate of Yintai camp is about to be transferred away. The new commander-in-chief is General Li Mu. General Li Mu used to be stationed at the Gate of Yintai camp to defend against the Xiongnu, but was later transferred away by His Majesty. This is the second time he is stationed at the Gate of Yintai camp. General Li Mu loves his soldiers like his own children and is extremely compassionate towards his soldiers. Li Mu, a famous general from the Warring States period. As expected, Li Mu was the first general in the history of Huaxia to defeat the Xiongnu. Xia Pinggan suddenly understood. Yin Zhao was a man, and this realm pearl was used to summon cavalry. As soon as he came out, he encountered the Xiongnu at the border. Therefore, the highest mission of this realm pearl was to kill the Xiongnu at the border and protect the country. Whether or not the realm pearl could fuse perfectly with the realm pearl would depend on his contribution to it. Xia Pinggan only thought for a moment before he came to a realization. This was the second time that Li Mu had been ordered to guard the Gate of Yin. This time, it was also the beginning of Li Mu's immortalization. When Li Mu was stationed in Yinmen County for the first time, he had studied the tactics of the Xiongnu cavalry. The Xiongnu were all cavalry, and they came and went like the wind. They were skilled with bows and horses. When the Xiongnu cavalry fought with the border army of the Zhao kingdom, it was mostly the border army of the Zhao kingdom that was at a disadvantage. The border army of the Zhao kingdom had almost no way to restrain the Xiongnu cavalry. Li Mu had taken the initiative to avoid the sharp edge of the Xiongnu cavalry in order to counter their unique characteristics. In the eyes of others, he was a little cowardly. When the Xiongnu cavalry came, Li Mu ordered the army to defend the camp and pass and not attack. The Xiongnu cavalry attacked and pillaged the border many times, but they were unable to pose any threat to the Zhao kingdom's army. On the other hand, while avoiding the Xiongnu cavalry, Li Mu was constantly perfecting the warning system at the border and monitoring the movements of the Xiongnu. At the same time, he insisted on rewarding the soldiers and improving their meals. Every day, he slaughtered cows and sheep for the soldiers' meals. At the same time, he also strengthened the training of the soldiers and trained a large number of valiant archers for the Zhao kingdom to prepare to crush the Xiongnu. Just like that, the Xiongnu cavalry became more and more arrogant, thinking that the border army of the Zhao kingdom was a coward. However, the border army of the Zhao kingdom became stronger and stronger under Li Mu's training, and the situation gradually became favorable for the Zhao kingdom. However, the heavens played a joke on Li Mu. When Li Mu was stationed at the Yanmen Gate for the first time, he was still accumulating strength and looking for an opportunity. Before he could do anything, the king of the Zhao kingdom believed in his slander and felt that Li Mu was too cowardly and would harm the prestige of the country. He immediately dismissed Li Mu and replaced him with a brave and aggressive general to meet the Xiongnu cavalry at the Yanmen Gate. Several years after the new general arrived, he lost many battles with the Xiongnu. Not only did he lose soldiers and generals, but he also spent a lot of money and resources. Furthermore, the situation at the Yanmen Gate did not change at all. The people were still suffering at the hands of the Xiongnu. The king of the Zhao kingdom could not take it anymore and felt that Li Mu was more reliable. Although he was a little cowardly, at least he was able to defend the situation. Thus, he went through a lot of trouble and invited Li Mu to guard the Yanmen Gate for the second time. At this moment, since news had already spread from the camp at the Yanmen Gate, Li Mu should be on his way. This information flashed through Xia Pinggan's mind. Xia Pinggan directly said to the UG General Lu Qi, "General, thank you for your appreciation. I am willing to serve the army." Haha, good. In a while, you will come with me to the Yanmen Gate camp. Yes. This time, there were only a few hundred Xiongnu cavalrymen who came out to pillage. When these few hundred Xiongnu cavalrymen saw that they were no match for Lu Qi's 2,000 men, they immediately fled. Lu Qi did not gain any merit and only chased the Xiongnu cavalrymen away. Before the Xiongnu cavalrymen took them away, they killed many people and kidnapped some women. Because Xia Pinggan was injured, the UG General Lu Qi allowed Xia Pinggan to ride a war chariot back to the camp. The war chariots of the Zhao kingdom were carriages pulled by horses. Each war chariot had a coachman, an archer, or a spearman. In this era, war chariots were very popular heavy weapons in the military. The strength of a country depended on how many war chariots they could gather in battle. If the battle were to take place on a plain, the sight of hundreds of thousands of chariots charging side by side would be a great deterrent to any fleshly body. When they returned to Yanmen Pass, the sun had already set in the west. Looking at the nearby villages that were filled with fire and smoke, and women and old people were crying and wailing everywhere, Xia Pinggan did not feel good in his heart. This kind of border disaster had never been cut off for the Chinese people for generations. The threat that the northern nomads posed to the Central Plains dynasty was too great. Besides Xia Pinggan, there were many youths from the various villages who followed Lu Qi back to the Yanmen Gate camp to join the army and kill the enemy. By nightfall, Xia Pinggan had already followed Lu Qi back to Yanmen Pass. In the darkness, Yanmen Pass was like a giant beast hiding in the mountains, brimming with killing intent. At this moment, the Zhao kingdom had been stationed at Yanmen Pass for many years. It was already rather large and was not very different from what one would see in the future. The surrounding terrain of Yanmen Pass was extremely dangerous. It was between two mountain valleys. Yanmen Pass was built along the mountain's topography and had a perimeter of about 5 kilometers. The southern end of the wall was connected to the eastern and western wings of the pass, while the northern end extended along the mountain ridge to the bottom of the valley. There was a gate at the end of the encirclement. Outside the encirclement were several large and small stone walls that acted as barriers. After arriving at Yanmen Pass, Xia Pinggan finally understood why the local people called Yanmen Pass the Iron Inner Gate. It was because the gate of Yanmen Pass was wrapped in a thick layer of iron. It was incomparably thick and heavy. Even if one were to chop it with an axe, one would only be able to leave a faint mark. In the mountains surrounding Yinmen Pass, there was a series of watchtowers and beacon towers. Almost every 100 meters, there would be a watchtower. In the most dangerous areas, Yinmen Pass had castles, moats, and hidden doors. After extending north from the east and west, it was connected to the Great Wall built by the Zhao Kingdom's Spirit King. In this era, it was not an exaggeration to call such a majestic pass the #1 pass in all of China. When the Xiongnu people in the north saw such an impregnable pass blocking their way to the south, one could imagine the despair in their hearts. The Yinmen camp of the state of Zhao was set up in the north of Yinmen Pass. In the southeast of the pass was the camp's drill ground. At this moment, there were almost 80,000 to 90,000 soldiers of the state of Zhao stationed here. As soon as they arrived at the camp, Lu Qi directly led Xiaopinggan to a relatively independent camp in the southwest of the camp. The camp was lifeless and dark. There was an aura of decline everywhere. Just as they entered the camp, Xiaopinggan could smell the thick smell of blood and the unique smell of rotting human wounds. Of course, it was mixed with the smell of messy herbs. From time to time, low moans and wails could be heard coming from the barracks on both sides. This is the wounded barracks. The wounded brothers are all recuperating here. Lu Qi looked burly, but after arriving here, his face became sad. How many people are taking care of the wounded soldiers in this camp? Xiaopinggan asked. The 3 shamans in the camp are all here. The entire Yinmen camp of the state of Zhao only had 3 shamans. Note that these shamans were not professional military doctors. They were a combination of shamans and herbalists who knew how to perform the great god dance. For example, the doctor Xiaopinggan met in the village today was lucky. The doctor went to a nearby village to treat people and encountered the Xiongnu troops. He had no choice but to hide. After the Xiongnu troops left, he dared to show himself and participated in the treatment of the wounded soldiers in the village. Xiaopinggan asked Lu Qi to call the 3 shamans here. After asking, he found out what the shamans in the army used to treat the wounded soldiers. It was very simple. There were only 4 words: scrape, saw, chisel, and pull. Rather than calling them doctors, they were more like carpenters. All the wounded soldiers who were sent here, after going through the 4 types of treatment and watching the shamans praying to the gods, could only resign themselves to fate. Chapter 230. At noon a month later, at the gate of Yinmen of Zhao Kingdom, all the officers above the rank of general gathered at the gate to welcome Li Mu. At noon, a cloud of dust appeared in the valley south of the gate of Yinmen. Soon, a team of hundreds of cavalrymen escorted Li Mu to the gate of the camp. Li Mu was riding on a tall red horse. He had a long beard and was wearing armor. He controlled the reins with his left hand. His eyes were as calm as the sea. He had a special temperament. No matter how manic a general was, he would calm down when he saw him. Greetings, General. When the generals and officers at the gate of Yinmen saw Li Mu, they all bowed to him. Li Mu jumped off the horse and glanced at the faces of the generals and officers who greeted him. He seemed to be confirming and looking for them. These faces were not unfamiliar to Li Mu. They were all his old subordinates. Are these the only ones left? Li Mu sighed softly. Only after hearing this sentence, many valiant generals' eyes turned red as they shed tears. Some of them even lowered their heads out of shame, who said that men did not cry only because they were not sad. When Li Mu was in the gate of Yinmen, there were almost 180,000 soldiers and cavalrymen in the camp. It could be said that the soldiers were strong and the horses were strong. After a few years, there were less than 100,000 soldiers. More than half of them had been lost. When Li Mu was there, many generals and officers under his command were quite critical because Li Mu avoided battles. They did not agree with Li Mu's way of doing things. In the gate of Yinmen, some people even gave Li Mu a nickname, General Coward. When Li Mu left and King Zhao replaced him with General Fierce, these generals and officers really understood Li Mu's good points. General Meng had been in the gate of Yin camp for many years and had never shied away from battle. Everyone in the gate of Yin camp had become General Meng's pawns and cannon fodder for General Meng to win fame and future in King Zhao's recognition. General Meng knew how Li Mu left, so he only paid attention to what that person in Handan City thought of him. Since that person in Handan City wanted to fight, then he would fight. As for the life and death of the soldiers, how could there be no deaths in a war? After a few years, General Meng left the gate of Yin unscathed and returned to Handan. Most of the soldiers in the camp at the gate of Yin had turned into white bones under the yellow soil. Now that they saw their former commander-in-chief again, the soldiers in the camp all had complicated feelings. They were sad and ashamed, and they were indescribable. Li Mu walked through the gate of the camp and led the generals directly to the main tent of the camp. He sat on the commander-in-chief seat and showed everyone the tiger seal that Lord Zhao gave him according to the procedure. Then, in the respect of everyone, he officially sat on the main seat and began to take charge of the gate of Yin. On the main seat, Li Mu's eyes flashed. His gaze swept across the faces of all the generals on both sides of the tent. Pass down my order. From now on, without my order, anyone who dares to go out and fight the Xiongnu will be killed. Li Mu's first order was still the same as before. They were not allowed to fight the Xiongnu. When they heard Li Mu's order, everyone in the tent was shocked and obeyed in unison. This time, Lord Zhao has handed over all the tax and financial rights of the gate of Yin and Dai County to me. These tax and financial rights will be used to reward the army and raise the soldiers. As usual, I want all the soldiers in the army to have the meat of cows and sheep in their daily meals. If any of you dare to eat less, it will be the same as scraping my flesh and bones. I will kill you. The generals in the tent bowed again and obeyed. After giving 2 orders and having a few words with the generals, Li Mu asked the generals to disperse and return to their respective camps after learning about the situation inside and outside the gate of Yintai camp. Then, he led a few generals and began to personally inspect the situation inside the gate of Yintai camp. The situation inside the gate of Yin was not out of Li Mu's expectations. At the moment, there was a shortage of soldiers in the camp and morale was low. Everything had to start over and slowly accumulate. Li Mu patrolled in the camp and unknowingly came to the wounded camp. Li Mu was very clear about the situation of the wounded soldiers' camp. However, when Li Mu came to the wounded soldiers' camp this time, he was shocked by what he saw. Before he reached the wounded camp, Li Mu heard a burst of cheerful and passionate singing coming from the wounded camp. Someone was singing with the wounded soldiers in the wounded camp. Outside the wounded camp, Li Mu heard a voice. Come, everyone, sing with me. This is the melody 1, 2, 3, rise. Solemn rabbit, ding, ding, ding. Valiant warrior, dukes and marquises are in charge of the city. Solemn rabbit, ding, 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 ding. Valiant warrior, dukes and marquises are vengeful. Solemn rabbit, ding, ding, ding. Valiant warrior, dukes and marquises are loyal. Old Black, the second line, you're out of tune again. Can you not be so loud when you're out of tune? If you sing like this again, I'll punish you to face the wall today. Ha ha, I think it's more exciting to sing like this. Next time, I'll lower my voice. A weak voice said. Ha ha ha. More people laughed. Okay, one more time. This time, pay attention to the melody. Don't go out of tune again. Many people in the wounded camp were singing along, which sounded quite interesting. The general next to Li Mu was about to send someone to pass the message. Li Mu gently waved his hand and walked to the wounded camp. As soon as he entered the barracks, Li Mu found that the ground of the wounded soldiers' barracks had been leveled. It was no longer full of potholes as before. Not only that, neat ditches had been dug around the wounded soldiers' barracks. The wastewater in the barracks flowed out from the ditches. It was no longer as filthy as it used to be. This was only the surface. When he entered, what he saw was another scene. The walls of the rooms in the wounded soldiers' barracks were painted with lime. It was snow white and looked very eye-catching. The rooms of the wounded soldiers were clean and tidy. They were even cleaner than the barracks of the normal soldiers. Some ropes were tied to the open space in the south of the wounded camp. Strips of linen were hanging on the ropes to dry. In the open space where the linen was drying, there were dustpans and straw mats. on which were various kinds of medicinal materials that were being dried according to their categories. In the kitchen of the wounded camp, there were several big pots, and the smell of boiling medicine came out. In a large open space in the middle of the wounded camp, more than 1,000 wounded soldiers were singing under the sun. There was a relaxed and happy smile on the faces of the wounded soldiers. A young man in his 20s was teaching the wounded soldiers to sing to the beat. In addition to these people, there were more than 100 people in white linen sleeves who were busy in the wounded camp. Some of those people were processing medicinal herbs, some were washing linen and preparing to dry it, and some were boiling medicine in the kitchen. Even those who were working in the wounded soldiers' barracks were in high spirits. As they worked, they listened to the wounded soldiers singing in the distance and hummed along with them. Such a wounded camp was full of vitality and joy. Li Mu had been in the army for so many years, but he had never seen such a place. Li Mu looked outside the circle and blinked his eyes. He almost thought that he was seeing things. Who was that young man? Li Mu pointed to Xia Pinggan in the crowd and asked the people around him. With Li Mu's eyesight, he could tell at a glance that the young man who was teaching the wounded soldiers singing was the soul of this camp. Those wounded soldiers looked at the young man with light in their eyes, and those who were busy around him looked at him with respect. Reporting to the general, that person is called Xia Pinggan. Xia Pinggan used to be a ranger of the gate of Yanmen. He met an extraordinary person in the mountains and was imparted with superb medical skills by that extraordinary person. He is brave and valiant. He was once shot by 2 arrows and killed 4 Xiongnu cavalrymen. Last month, when this general went out, I found him and saw him treat my wounds with silver needles and identify the medicinal properties of the wounds. This general then brought him to the camp and put him in charge of the wounded barracks to treat the wounded soldiers. After he came to the wounded barracks, no one else died in the wounded barracks. Once that Xia Pinggan came, the wounded barracks became very lively. Lu Qi explained. How could it be just impressive? Li Mu thought. Aren't there 3 wizards in the wounded camp? Who are those people wearing linen sleeves? Why are they working here? General, that Xia Pinggan said that it wasn't enough to have only 3 shamans here. He wanted some soldiers who were usually free to come here and take care of the wounded soldiers. At first, no one came, but Xia Pinggan said that he would teach them the medical skills and prescriptions to take care of the wounded soldiers. They could become doctors in the army. So many old soldiers in the camp rushed to come here to work and learn skills. We felt that letting a few old soldiers come to the camp wouldn't affect the military affairs in the camp. So we acquiesced and let Xia Pinggan be a soldier. Another general explained. In this camp, a captain could take care of 100 people. Li Mu knew that some old soldiers could not stay in the military camp for the rest of their lives. When those old soldiers got older and their physical strength declined, they could only leave the military camp and go home. And those old soldiers who went home could only make a living by farming. For many people, the opportunity to learn medicine in the military camp was completely unimaginable. If those old soldiers had the ability to cure diseases and save people, even if they left the military camp, they would not have to worry about food and clothing and would be respected by others. No wonder those people were so happy to work here. Li Mu asked someone to call an old soldier not far away to come over and ask him. That old soldier, who had been happily cutting herbs and listening to music, was suddenly called over. As soon as he saw Li Mu, he became excited. He recognized Li Mu at once and hurriedly bowed to him. Ah, General Li, you're back. You still remember me? Li Mu also smiled. The old soldier laughed, and his eyes were a little red. When you were here, we ate beef every day. The beef I ate in my life was not as much as the beef you ate in the years when you were in this camp. Once when you came to patrol the camp, you ate in the same pot with my brother. How could I forget you? It's just that, these years, many of my old brothers are gone. Li Mu gently patted the old soldier on the shoulder and also felt a little emotional. What skills did you learn here? Additionally, he taught us how to pick herbs, boil and apply medicine, stop bleeding, and pull out arrows. He also taught us how to use linen bandages to cover wounds and how to boil lime to paint walls. His medical prescriptions were marvelous. After taking Captain Xia's medical prescriptions, none of our brothers in the casualty barracks died anymore and recovered quickly. Captain Xia also knew how to treat patients with silver needles. However, his skill was too profound for us to learn. Speaking of Captain Xia's medical prescriptions, the old soldier became spirited at once as his eyes lit up. Now, all the brothers in the barracks know that there's a miraculous doctor in the casualty barracks. They're all very happy. Can you treat diseases? The old soldier nodded and said confidently, according to what Xia Pingan taught me, it's no problem to treat arrow wounds and wounds. I never thought that I could be a doctor in my life. Li Mu glanced at Xia Pingan, who was singing with the wounded soldiers in the distance, and nodded. He did not walk over, but turned and left the camp. After leaving, he ordered the people around him, asked Xia Pingan to come to see me in the main tent later. Yes. More than an hour later, Xia Pingan finally met Li Mu, whose name would go down in history in the main tent of the gate of Yinshan. Xia Pingan's eyes swept over Li Mu's face and then looked at Li Mu's right hand. He found that Li Mu's right hand was habitually behind his back, which was a little unnatural. Xia Pingan thought that some historical records said that Li Mu's hand was injured and could not draw a bow. It seemed to be true. You're Xia Pingan? Li Mu looked at Xia Pingan seriously and asked softly, Do you know why I asked you to come here? First of all, General, you want to ask me if I have a prescription to treat typhoid fever. Xia Pingan said calmly. Li Mu's eyes flashed, and he suddenly looked as sharp as a tiger. Why are you so sure? I heard that when you were in the gate of Yinshan camp, you did not allow the soldiers to go to war. Very few soldiers died on the battlefield. Instead, it was because the gate of Yinshan camp was in the bitter cold that many died of typhoid fever. General, you love your soldiers like your children. Today, you came to the camp and saw that I have medical skills and the ability to treat illnesses. Therefore, the first thing you want to ask me when you summon me must be the method to treat typhoid fever. Li Mu nodded. That's right. You just said first. What's the second thing? The second thing, General, you want to see if I have the ability to help you quell the Xiongnu disaster other than my medical skills. What's your answer? I have a prescription to treat typhoid fever. I can teach the cooks in the army to make the decoction. As long as the soldiers in the army take my decoction, their chances of contracting typhoid fever will be less than 1% of what they used to be. It can basically eradicate typhoid fever in the army. Hearing this, Li Mu stood up and said directly, If you have the ability, I can make you a general. Xia Pingan knew that in the army of the state of Zhao, the position of the Grand Marshal was not a small one. During the Warring States period, the military structure of each country was influenced by the Zhou dynasty and was basically the same. For example, in the army of the Zhao kingdom, 5 people formed a troop with a captain. 100 people formed a soldier with a captain. 500 soldiers formed a brigade with a colonel. 5 brigades formed a division with a general. 5 divisions formed an army. The so-called general led more than 10,000 soldiers. Li Mu made him a general. In the gate of Yinshan camp, his position was only below a few generals. It was an important position. General, aren't you going to ask me if I have the ability to help you quell the Xiongnu disaster? Xia Pingan said with a smile. Then do you have the ability? Li Mu asked. If you only want to quell the leader of the Rwandi clan, Chan Yu, across the gate of Yinshan, even without me, you already have a card up your sleeve. It won't be difficult for you to defeat the Rwandi clan in a few days. Li Mu laughed and narrowed his eyes at Xia Pingan. What an arrogant tone. In the whole world, there is actually someone who dares to say that it won't be difficult to quell the Xiongnu clan. Do you know how many Xiongnu soldiers there are in the Rwandi clan? There are more than 200,000 of them. The cavalry of the Rwandi clan is twice as many as the soldiers in the gate of Yinshan camp. If it weren't for the fact that the general had to leave the gate of Yin camp back then, I believe that the Rwandi clan would have been pacified by the general by now. The reason why the general didn't allow the soldiers in the camp to join the battle was because he wanted to nurture the arrogance of the Xiongnu clan towards the army of Zhao Kingdom. At the same time, he wanted to nurture the bravery of the soldiers in the gate of Yin camp. Once the Xiongnu clan was nurtured, they would think that the army of Zhao Kingdom was weak and easily bullied, and they wouldn't dare to join the battle. The general would then wait for the right opportunity and set a trap. Hearing Xia Pinggan's words, Li Mu's expression changed. This was his grand plan to quell the Xiongnu clan. He had never told anyone about it, not even the king of the Zhao Kingdom. He didn't expect that the moment he arrived at the gate of Yinshan camp, a small soldier would see through it. When he looked at Xia Pinggan again, Li Mu was shocked. How could such a person be just a small ranger? Li Mu hurriedly walked over from the general's seat and came before Xia Pinggan. He bowed and invited Xia Pinggan to sit down. Then he asked seriously, "You just said that quelling the Rwandi clan isn't difficult. What do you think is the difficult part?" The Rwandi clan is just one of the Xiongnu clans. Other than the Rwandi clan, there are also many other clans among the Xiongnu clans, such as the Huyin clan, the Lan clan, and Shubu clan. They are very powerful. The Xiongnu clan has occupied a large area of the grasslands in the north, and their influence extends for tens of thousands of miles. They're a great threat to Huaxia. Even if the Zhao Kingdom in general can quell the Rwandi clan, after a long time, the other Xiongnu clans will rise again and bring disaster to the world after recuperating. Therefore, I said that quelling the Rwandi clan is easy, but quelling the threat of the Xiongnu clans in the north, eliminating the threat of the nomads occupying the vast grasslands in the north to the descendants of Huaxia, and establishing a lasting legacy is the most difficult part, Xia Pinggan said. I also know that the nomads in the north are the biggest threat to Huaxia. On the grasslands, all the men are warriors and have been practicing archery and horse riding since they were young. They are really frightening. With the strength of the Zhao Kingdom alone, it is already our best effort to quell the Rwandi clan. If we want to quell the entire north, even if we unify the world and spend the world's money in taxes, it is still impossible to do so. It is already not easy for us to hold the fort. General, what you said is common sense. However, have you ever thought that the world is bustling and bustling for profit? Right now, all the countries, including the Yin Kingdom and the Zhao Kingdom, want to quell the Xiongnu only because of the threat of the Xiongnu. We have no choice but to do so. We are passive in our desire to quell the Xiongnu. Our war with the Xiongnu will consume a lot of money and food, and both the Yin Kingdom and the Zhao Kingdom will not be able to support it. However, if we use a different method and let all the countries and people think that we can take the initiative to quell the Xiongnu, it will make it profitable for everyone to fight the Xiongnu. Not only will it not consume money and food, but it will also make a lot of money. As long as we occupy a piece of grassland, we will have a lot of profits. We can raise the army and enrich the people, make the country rich, and make all the merchants in the world scramble for it. General, do you think that Huaxia can quell the threat of the grasslands in the north? Li Mu raised his eyebrows and his eyes flashed. After thinking for a long time, he said, "If that is really the case, it is possible. However, there are only cows and sheep on the grassland. Cows and sheep cannot be transported long distances and cannot be preserved as meat. Even if we can drive the Xiongnu away and occupy the grassland, we can only benefit from one piece of land. How can we make all the merchants scramble for it? How can we raise the army and enrich the people, make the country rich, and use war to support war?" General, if you believe me, as long as you lend me 1,000 taels of gold, give me 3,000 men, a piece of grassland, and 20,000 sheep, I can show you how the Zhao Kingdom's army can squeeze out gold from the grassland and make all the merchants scramble for it in 3 months. 1,000 taels of gold, 3,000 men, a piece of grassland, 20,000 sheep, and 3 months? Li Mu's voice suddenly became louder. That's right. Okay, I will give you this. I will now appoint you as the field scout of the gate of Yinshan camp. I want to see how you can squeeze out gold from the grassland in 3 months. Li Mu nodded and said, the field scout of the gate of Yinshan camp was responsible for managing the border trade between gate of Yinshan and Dai County and collecting money and food for the army. He was equivalent to General Li Mu's logistics and finance minister. One of the conditions that Li Mu proposed to King Zhao when he came to Yanshan Pass this time was to resist the Xiongnu. He had full control over the finance, personnel, and military of Yanshan and Dai County, and King Zhao agreed. At this moment, Li Mu's words in Dai County and Yanshan Pass were even more powerful than King Zhao's. Walking out of Li Mu's main tent, Xiao Pinggan looked at the distant sky and let out a long sigh. Helping Li Mu destroy the Rwandi family was too easy. Even without him, Li Mu, as a peerless general, could also do it. If he personally went in a battle, he would not be able to kill 1,000 Xiongnu, even if he died. Since this realm Pearl summoned cavalry, Xiao Pinggan wanted to try another way. He wanted to challenge it and see if he could achieve greater results. He wanted to do one thing. From a system perspective, he wanted to empower the cavalry of Yin, Zhao, and Huaxia. He wanted to turn the cavalry, which was the most expensive in the eyes of the emperors of the other countries, into the most profitable machines. Xiao Pinggan did not know whether this could succeed or how far it could go. He just wanted to try. Li Mu did as he said. On the same day, the news that he appointed Xiao Pinggan as field scout spread throughout the camp. Xiao Pinggan did not stay idle either. After handing over the wounded camp to his subordinates, he chose 3,000 weak-old soldiers from the camp. The next day, he brought them to Dai County and took over a ranch and tens of thousands of cattle and sheep. After that, Xiao Pinggan found carpenters and blacksmiths to start building workshops next to the ranch in Dai County. He also hired some women in Dai County who knew how to weave linen and had them learn how to pull wool. Xiao Pinggan had never weaved wool before, but he had a rough idea of the process and the conditions and equipment needed to weave wool. If there was something he did not understand, he could try to correct it bit by bit. As a result, it only took him more than 2 months. In less than 3 months, Xiao Pinggan put a bolt of wool in front of Li Mu. When he touched the wool, even though Li Mu was experienced and knowledgeable, he was still stunned. In a few days, the snow-white, soft, and very textured wool appeared in the border market of Yinmen. As soon as it appeared, it caused a great sensation and attracted countless businessmen from all directions. The price of wool set by Xiao Pinggan was 1 tael of wool and 100 taels of gold. However, the demand could not meet the demand. The wool that had just been put on the market was instantly snatched up by those businessmen. When the wool appeared in Handan, a carriage of wool was sold at the price of 10 taels of gold. This wool attracted the attention of countless rich and powerful families who were proud of having a piece of wool. Everything was as Xiao Pinggan expected. In this era where there was no such thing as a rare raw material, the appearance of wool caused a great sensation. A piece of wool could make everyone crazy, make people chase after it, and make the nobles bow down. For businessmen who pursued profit, wool was simply a white gold mine. For a time, because of the wool, merchants in Yinmen and Daijun were like clouds in the sky. The originally ordinary grassland and sheep were suddenly popular. Li Mu recruited new soldiers in the camp of Yinmen again and began training. He did not fight in closed-door training. After the Xiongnu outside, Yinmen Pass learned of the wool. Every time they went out to plunder, wool became the most desirable thing for those Xiongnu. The situation outside Yinmen Pass was still the same as in history. What was supposed to happen was still happening, step by step. However, many things were already quietly changing 2 months after the woolen cloth appeared. Some rich merchants from Zhao State sent more than 1,000 fine horses to Li Mu's camp at the gate of Yanshan. They began to build a relationship with Li Mu and began to reward the soldiers. Merchants who wanted to see Li Mu lined up outside the camp at the gate of Yanshan. Chapter 231. The sky was blue, the wilderness was vast, and cattle and sheep could be seen when the wind blew through the grass. This should have been a magnificent scene, but the loud sound of the horn, the murderous aura of the Chinese cavalry, and the thunderous sound of iron hooves reverberated across the vast grassland. On the distant horizon, black smoke rose into the sky. In the distance, the burning Xiongnu royal court was like the last sad song of the Xiongnu tribe under the setting sun. The Yinzhao cavalry, equipped with stirrups, trampled on the wolf banners. They were like wolves and tigers, rampaging across the grassland. Arrows fell like rain, and sabers flashed like snow. Wanderers from various countries followed closely behind. Like a pack of wolves, they surrounded the Xiongnu royal court, not allowing any Xiongnu to escape. The head of a Xiongnu man could be exchanged for 100 mu of grassland. This was a huge temptation to the wanderers of various countries. They could use the heads of the Xiongnu people to make a name for themselves and their wives and children. Other than the wanderers, there was also a large group of nobles and landlords galloping across the grassland. They lit up the tents of the Xiongnu people one by one. From Handan to Jinyang, and then outside Yinmen Pass, almost all the nobles and landlords of Zhao participated in this banquet. The uncles of the king of Zhao, as well as the relatives of the concubines in the harem, were all part of it. These years, the private soldiers of the nobles were like wild beasts on the grassland. They were unscrupulous and were even more Xiongnu than the Xiongnu people. Kill all the men, but leave the women alive. The private soldiers of the nobles and landlords roared. Further away, there were caravans formed by four-wheeled carriages. The black awning carriages of the caravans were like long worms on the grassland, snaking for dozens of miles. The caravans were like vultures on the grassland. They did not participate in the killing, but only in the feast behind. The caravans and carriages carried the army's provisions and supplies and left with the trade quota of wool and woolen cloth. Wherever the caravans and carriages passed by, the situation on the prairie would be constantly reported. The warriors of the Xiongnu tribe were making their last stand in the core area of the royal court. This resistance represented the final dignity of the Xiongnu tribe. Chanyu could have chosen a break through the encirclement, but he was tired and did not want to run anymore. Chanyu was the leader of the wolf pack, not a stray dog on the grassland. Previously, the royal court of the head Chanyu was in Ku City. Then, Li Mu and Xia Pingan came here with the cavalry. The royal court of the head Chanyu was forced to move from Ku City to Wuliangxi. Then, the royal court of the head Chanyu moved from Wuliangxi to Mount Hang Ai in the North Desert. 7 years ago, the royal court of the head Chanyu moved from Mount Hang Ai to the current Bagdo. 3 years ago, the royal court of the head Chanyu moved from Bagdo to this place and went all the way north. In less than 20 years, the head Chanyu was forced to move his royal court 4 times. He was chased around the grassland by the cavalry of Yin Zhao and lived a precarious life. The once ambitious head Chanyu gradually grew older with more and more white hair on his head. The once majestic body of the head Chanyu also became hunched. The number of Xiongnu tribes on the grassland also decreased. The most intense battle broke out where the royal court of the Xiongnu tribe was. The arrows of the cavalry of both sides were like locusts flying through the air. Arrows would collide with each other in the air. However, the bow and arrows of the Xiongnu people were unable to penetrate the armor of the enemy cavalry. The cavalry of the state of Zhao were all wearing 5 layers of armor made of iron bamboo, with soaked in tung oil, linen, soft silk, and sheepskin. This kind of armor was very light and had sufficient defensive power. It was enough to block the bow and arrows of the Xiongnu people. On the other hand, the Xiongnu people fought like their ancestors and fathers did. They did not have such armor and only relied on their flesh and blood. Under the rain of arrows of the state of Zhao, the Xiongnu warriors guarding the royal court of the Xiongnu tribe fell to the ground, soaking the grassland in blood. On a hill not far from the royal court, silk banners fluttered in the wind. A large banner with the word Li and a large banner with the word Xia stood there, fluttering in the wind. Behind the hill, 10,000 elite cavalry of the state of Zhao were in reserve. They were silent like thunder, ready to pounce at any time. On the hill, the armored Xia Pingan and Li Mu each rode on a horse, looking at the Xiongnu royal court in the distance. A group of generals all stood behind them, holding their breaths, not daring to disturb the conversation of the 2 people in front of them. Before we surrounded them, the leader Mandan had time to escape, but he did not. He chose to stay. Li Mu used his horsewhip to point at the royal court in the distance and sighed. He did not want to run. He must be tired. Xia Pingan smiled, and looked away from the surroundings. Looking at the terrain, it was a bit like the Karakoram region at the northern foot of Mount Hang Ai in Outer Mongolia. He probably realized that we let him go on purpose the last 2 times. Only he could gather the wandering Xiongnu tribes. Wherever he escapes, it is easier for us to clean up. It is easier to destroy them, and it is easier to clean up when the trash is gathered together. After this battle, the Xiongnu tribe should be wiped out. Li Mu sighed. It should be almost done. The tribes that didn't run away have been almost wiped out. Those that ran away, let them go and cause trouble for others. Xiao Pingan also let out a long sigh. It will take many years to completely digest such a vast grassland. This grassland needs someone to guard it. General, you are now the great general of Zhao Kingdom. I think you don't need to return to Handan anymore. Just stay here. It may not be a blessing for you to return to Handan. It is not good for you to return to Handan. Li Mu suddenly turned to look at Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan and Li Mu looked at each other calmly. Li Mu suddenly smiled. My life's wish was to pacify the Xiongnu tribe. Now that the Xiongnu tribe has been pacified, my wish has been fulfilled. I can retire and return to my hometown at any time. What about you? What are your plans? Xiao Pingan sighed. He glanced at the fallen flagpole of the Xiongnu royal court in the distance and gently shook his head. I'm afraid I have to leave too. Not long after, Xiao Pingan saw a group of cavalrymen rushing over from the direction of the Xiongnu royal court. The valiant general at the front raised a bloody head with one hand and shouted along the way, "The leader of the Xiongnu tribe has been beheaded. The leader of the Xiongnu tribe has been beheaded." The entire grassland was in an uproar. Seeing the bloody head, the remaining Xiongnu warriors immediately collapsed. Some people fled in all directions, while others completely gave up resistance and were beheaded in the blink of an eye. The cavalrymen quickly rushed to the small hill. The valiant general who raised the head dismounted from his horse and walked quickly to Xiao Pingan and Li Mu. He knelt on one knee and raised the head high in his hand. Reporting to the general and Prime Minister Yin, the leader of the Xiongnu tribe has been beheaded. This is the head of the leader of the Xiongnu tribe. Please take a look. After the fall of the Zhao Kingdom, Daidi became an important vassal territory of the Zhao Kingdom. The Prime Minister of Daidi was the highest administrative and military officer of Daidi. In these years, as the Zhao Kingdom continued to expand their territory outside the Yinmen Pass and defeated the Xiongnu tribe repeatedly, the wool cloth brought in a lot of money for the Zhao Kingdom. In order to suppress Li Mu and win over Xiao Pingan, the king of Zhao followed the customs of Daidi and made Xiao Pingan Prime Minister Yin. Nominally, he could rule the land north of the Yinmen Pass. The authority of Xiao Pingan and Li Mu overlapped in many places. The king of Zhao originally wanted the 2 tigers to fight and balance each other. He thought it was a clever move. However, he did not know that the 2 were not only comrades, but also confidants. Xiao Pingan did not care about the so-called power of Prime Minister Yin at all. For Xiao Pingan, this identity was just to make it easier for him to deal with the nobles in Handan of the Zhao Kingdom. In the northern part of the Zhao Kingdom, Li Mu and Xiao Pingan could be said to be powerful and famous. Outside the pass, their reputation could even make the Xiongnu tribe tremble in fear. As long as the Li flag and the Xiao flag appeared on the grassland, the Xiongnu tribe within 100 miles of the grassland would flee far away. In order to ensure their safety, the caravans would put the Li flag and the Xiao flag on both sides of the carriages to deter the Xiongnu tribe. The bloody old head was not beautiful at all. Xiao Pingan looked at the head of the leader of the Xiongnu tribe. When he was about to say something, he saw the whole world turn into a rain of light and shatter at this moment. Everything in the realm bead was in a daze, as if he was in a long dream. A moment later, the surging divine power began to wash Xiao Pingan's body. Under the impact of the divine power, Xiao Pingan felt as if his body had broken through a ceiling and reached a new level. The divine power in the secret mandala had directly broken through to the two-sun realm. Chapter 232. Xiaoping's consciousness was immersed in the changes in the secret mandala. The upper limit of his divine power in the celestial caisson had increased by 188 points, from 1,437 points to 1,625 points. In terms of divine power, as expected, he had met the requirements to advance to the two-sun stage. During his time in Shangjing City, Xiaoping'an had not expended much divine power. Coupled with his natural recovery every month, his divine power was basically full. The biggest change was not the increase in divine power, but the other changes in the secret mandala. In the northwest of the secret mandala, Xiaoping'an saw a building that had not appeared in the secret mandala before. It was a military camp. The military camp was similar to the Yinmen camp at Yinmen Pass. It was also built in the valley between two mountains and occupied a large area. In the center of the military camp, there was a huge bronze relief sculpture which depicted the scene of Xiaoping'an and Li Mu leading the cavalry to break into the Han Kingdom. The cavalrymen in the sculpture were so lifelike. They were wearing armor, holding bows, spears, and broadswords. Their horses were galloping and standing on their hind legs, looking valiant and spirited. Those Hun people in the sculpture were either running like wolves or running like rats or running like rats, with their faces full of horror. This was the first time a relief sculpture had appeared outside of the temple. This relief sculpture had a ray of light that shot into the temple. It shone together with the mountain of golden characters on the temple, directly igniting the two words, Iron Cavalry. Xiaoping'an had been in a daze in the secret mandala for a long time before he summoned a cavalry from the relief. The cavalry consumed 18 points of divine power. When the cavalrymen in the relief sculpture rode their war horses out of the brilliant relief sculpture, their majestic appearance made Xiaoping'an's eyes light up. The cavalry that was summoned was wearing armor and carrying a strong bow. There was a quiver of arrows on the saddle and a long spear in his hand. He looked ferocious. Xiaoping'an's gaze lingered on the cavalry for a while. The cavalry's attributes appeared before Xiaoping'an's eyes. In the secret mandala, a character's attributes appeared. This meant that this character could be summoned in large numbers and was not unique. Summoned character, Storm Cavalry. Elite consumed divine power. 18 health, 140 wisdom, 75 force, 62 skills. 1. Death Assault. 2. Mounted Archery. 3. Trample. Talent. Light of Life Plane Descent Time. 720 minutes. The Storm Cavalrymen were the strongest cavalrymen that Yin Zhao's Realm Pearl could summon. However, the Storm Cavalrymen that he summoned had the words Elite Level. It seemed a little different. To a summoner, the attributes of the characters they summoned was a secret that only they knew. Not many summoners would reveal the attributes of the characters they summoned to the public. Therefore, Xiaoping'an didn't know what the attributes of the Storm Cavalry that other summoners could summon were. However, he felt that the Storm Cavalry that he summoned should be stronger than those summoned by other summoners. Just as Xiaoping'an summoned the Storm Cavalry, Zhang Jie appeared at the entrance of the new barracks. With a wave of the jade pen in his hand, he wrote the words Storm Cavalry Barracks on the entrance of the barracks. Xiaoping'an used 180 points of divine power to summon 10 Storm Cavalrymen. As it was late at night outside, it was also late at night in the secret mandala. There was no sun in the sky, and it was quiet. The farmer and pharmacist were resting. Once the 10 Storm Cavalrymen were summoned, they rode out of the barracks and disappeared into the darkness to patrol. Previously, the patrolling soldiers in the secret mandala were all slave soldiers. With the addition of the Storm Cavalrymen, Xiaoping'an could finally summon a proper army. In the secret underground room, Xiaoping'an suddenly opened his eyes. The secret room was pitch black. However, a summoner could still see clearly in the dark. The rewards of Yin Zhao's Realm Pearl are really too generous. Xiaoping'an muttered to himself. Then he took out his pocket watch and looked at the time. It was only 3 a.m. There was still plenty of time. Xiaoping'an came out of the basement and went up. The small courtyard was quiet. Only a few crickets were chirping in the garden. The woman was sleeping in the guest room. The door was tightly shut. She was already asleep. Xiao Pingan went directly to the bathroom. The bathroom in the courtyard was very clean. There was a beautiful bathtub with horseshoe stones. The hot water pipe in the bathtub was connected to the kitchen gas. The gas could be used to heat water for bathing. For someone like Xiao Pingan, it didn't matter whether it was hot or cold water. Xiao Pingan filled the bathtub with cold water. Then he took out the two-sun divine spring and poured it into the water. After the two-sun divine spring was poured into the cold water, the water in the bathtub became hot. It was like a hot spring gushing out from the ground. The water in the bathtub also became light green. Xiao Pingan took off his clothes and soaked in the bathtub. There was only one word to describe the feeling: comfortable. Waves of energy and heat entered Xiao Pingan's body from the water. It was warm. The entire secret mandala was bathed in a faint green light. A second sun was slowly forming. Xiao Pingan closed his eyes and savored the changes in his body and the secret mandala. The fatigue in his body and mind instantly disappeared. He had finally officially advanced to the two-sun realm. For a summoner, the two-sun realm was an important dividing line. Even in the Yuanxiu world, many summoners in this world were stuck between the preparatory summoners and the one-sun realm their entire lives. A two-sun realm summoner was an expert that many low-level summoners looked up to and respected. The bounty hunters that Sun Hao had hired to deal with him previously were two-sun realm summoners with mediocre abilities. The most powerful summoners that most ordinary people in this world could come into contact with in their entire lives were two-sun realm summoners. In order to advance to the three-sun realm, his secret mandala had to have more than 2,520 points of divine power. There is still a long way to go. Every time he advanced to the next realm, the difficulty would increase. However, as long as he had the realm pearl, he should be able to steadily advance to the sixth-sun realm. After the bath, Xiao Pingan returned to his room to sleep. He slept until he woke up naturally. The sun shone through the window and onto the bed. It was warm. When he opened his eyes were filled with sunshine. Xiao Pingan got out of bed, put on his clothes, and washed up. He hummed a song as he slowly walked to the kitchen to make breakfast for himself. Xiao Pingan made himself a bowl of noodles. He also made soup with mushrooms, shrimps, dried scallops, and beef bones. He fried eggs, boiled some vegetables, and stir-fried meat with sauce and kitchen spices. These rich families had ice cellars and ice rooms in their kitchens. Xiao Pingan had found time to buy some kitchen ingredients in the city and place them in the ice room. It was very convenient for him to make breakfast. Needless to say, Xiao Pingan's cooking skills were honed from taking care of Xiaoning for many years. Cooking in the kitchen was a way for Xiao Pingan to rest and relax. Of course, he had to be in a good mood to cook. Xiao Pingan was in a good mood after advancing to the two-sun realm. Ever since he came to Shangjing City, he hadn't cooked for himself for a long time. Today was the first time Xiao Pingan was cooking. After the noodles were cooked, thick broth was poured over them. The red shrimps and the golden shellfish meat were arranged neatly. A golden egg was placed in the middle, just like the sun outside. A few green vegetables that had been boiled in boiling water were placed beside the egg like clouds. After that, the fragrant broth was poured over them. In a split second, a large bowl of noodles was placed in front of Xiao Pingan, which was filled with a rich aroma. It looked pleasing to the eyes and was filled with the desire to eat. Xiao Pingan looked at his masterpiece with satisfaction. He untied his apron and was about to take the noodles out to enjoy when he heard the sound of someone swallowing saliva. Xiao Pingan looked up and saw Lady Chow Chow, with a fluffy head standing outside the kitchen. Her eyes were glued to the bowl of noodles he had cooked, and she was swallowing her saliva. Lady Chow Chow didn't seem to have slept well last night. There were 2 dark circles under her eyes. However, this didn't hinder her from appreciating and judging the food. The aroma coming from the kitchen was too alluring. Grumble, grumble. Xiao Pingan could vaguely hear Lady Chow Chow, his stomach growling. That's right, this lady probably didn't eat dinner last night. What's that on the table? It looks very nice. Lady Chow Chow asked even though she already knew the answer. Her eyes were glued to the bowl of noodles. As she swallowed her saliva, she walked toward the kitchen like she was sleepwalking. Oh no, She was walking toward the bowl of noodles Xiao Pingon had cooked. Chapter 233. Delicious, delicious, too delicious. I've never eaten such delicious noodles. In the dining room, Xiao Pingon ate a small portion of the big bowl of noodles he cooked, and the rest was all eaten by Chow Chow. Not only did she finish the noodles, but even the soup in the noodles was all gone. Xiao Pingon watched Miss Chow Chow eat his noodles. For some reason, when Miss Chow Chow ate the noodles, although she looked like she was gobbling them up, it didn't feel vulgar or rude. Instead, there was a sense of straightforwardness and even a little elegance. What the hell? Xiao Pingon muttered in his heart. He had to find an explanation for himself. Perhaps when he saw her, he thought of Xiaoning. Is there anything else? She hastily raised her head and looked at Xiao Pingon with her beautiful angelic face. She blinked her eyes cutely. There's no more. Under Cao Cao's gaze, Xiao Pingon stuffed the last noodle in his bowl into his mouth. Then, he picked up the bowl and drank the last bit of soup mercilessly. By the way, you didn't seem to sleep well last night. Are you not used to being here? Xiao Pingon finished drinking the soup, put down his bowl, and asked. Yesterday, I didn't know if you were reliable or a bad person, so I didn't dare to sleep last night. I even blocked the door of the guest room. Chow Chow nodded and said matter-of-factly, now it seems that you're not a bad person. A bad person shouldn't be able to make such delicious noodles. Xiao Pingon was speechless. What kind of logic was this? Forget it, I don't care. This girl is being watched, so she probably won't stay here for long. Remember, wash the dishes. Xiao Pingon said to Chow Chow. What? You wanted to wash the dishes? Chow Chow pointed at her nose, raised her eyebrows, and stared at Xiao Pingon. Xiao Pingon stared back at her with an even louder voice. Have you ever seen a chef wash dishes? How can you eat for free? You ate my noodles, so you have to wash the dishes. Washing 2 dishes is already a bargain for you. If you dare to dine and dash outside, if you meet a fierce person, you'll be caught to wash the dishes for a month. You'll also have to wash the floor, mop the floor, and sell you to a remote place in the mountains to give birth to someone's children. Oh, I'll wash it. Why are you so fierce? Cao Cao's arrogance suddenly withered. Wash and wipe the bowls and chopsticks, and put them in the kitchen. Before leaving the dining room, Xiao Pingon also instructed, but Xiao Pingon had only walked a few steps out of the room when he heard a clang sound behind him. It was the sound of a bowl falling to the ground and breaking. Xiao Pingon turned around and saw her sticking out her tongue, looking at him awkwardly. Forget it for the sake of those gold coins. I'm going out for a while. Remember to lock the door if you're leaving, Xiao Pingon told Chow Chow and asked the black dragon to look after the house. He then went to the door, took today's newspaper, walked out of the alley, and went to the street outside. After waiting for a while, he called a rental carriage and asked the carriage to go directly to Tianyuan Bridge. The atmosphere in Shangjing City today was not as tense as yesterday. There were fewer checkpoints on the street, but policemen could still be seen everywhere, especially when passing by the gate of the Judgment Army's camp. It could be seen that the Judgment Army's camp was not as peaceful as before. From time to time, there were black carriages going in and out of the camp. Looking at the newspaper in his hand, he saw that the entire front page, as well as the other pages, reported the various great changes that happened yesterday. The headline on the front page of the newspaper was "The Judgment Army Destroyed the Blood Demon Church in Beihai Harbor and Shangjing City." Accompanying this headline was a photo of a huge warship. The warship in the photo was distorted, and half of it was exposed from the sea. The visual effect was extremely shocking, as if it had experienced a great change in the end of the world. Xiao Pingon looked at the news carefully. The news recorded the Blood Demon Church's rebellion in Beihai Harbor yesterday. According to the way the news was written, the Blood Demon Church was naturally full of pus and ulcers. They actually wanted to assassinate the guests who participated in the warship launching ceremony at Beihai Harbor and carried out terrorist attacks among the onlookers. However, because the Judgment Army responded appropriately and the Crown Prince's strategy and command were appropriate, they quickly crushed the Blood Demon Church's conspiracy and terrorist activities and didn't let the Blood Demon Church cause more damage. At the same time, the Judgment Army followed the clues and identified many hidden members of the Blood Demon Church in Shanjing City. They destroyed the conspiracy network that the Blood Demon Church operated in Shanjing City and effectively protected the good environment of the Shang Kingdom in Shanjing City. They asked the public not to panic and to report any clues that they had and how many rewards they could receive. Looking at the distorted warship in the newspaper again, Xiao Pingan was slightly shocked. He really couldn't imagine what kind of power could turn a warship into such a state. In the carriage, Xiao Pingan directly put away the newspaper carefully and put it in his space warehouse. He felt that the distorted warship photo in the newspaper could be kept as a reminder that the road of Summoner was still very long. There were countless strong people, and he still had a long way to go. It was best to guard against arrogance and impatience and not be complacent with his current achievements. The wheels of the carriage turned. After an hour, Xiao Pingan finally arrived at the Tianyuan Bridge. Soon, he met the middleman that he met yesterday again. Mr. Xia, I went around the whole day yesterday and persuaded the landlord in every way possible. He finally agreed to reduce the price by 600 gold coins. The house will be sold for 43,000 gold coins. I can't go any lower. This is the final price. The landlord wants cash and a lump sum payment. It's best to complete all the transaction procedures within 3 days. After a day of negotiation, he saved 600 gold coins. Xiao Pingan felt that it was quite worth it. Okay, thank you very much. I won't shortchange you a single copper coin. We can sign the contract and complete the procedures today. The procedures for the property transaction were a little troublesome. Xiao Pingan stayed at the Tianyuan Bridge for almost a day. In the middle, he followed the middleman to the Real Estate Administration Bureau and the Justice Department in Shanjing City. After completing the final procedures, half a day passed. Finally, he had a place in Shanjing City that truly belonged to him. Xiao Pingan was quite happy. The house that he bought at the Tianyuan Bridge was really good. The house was by the Tianyuan River. It faced the street and was very spacious. He could open it up to do business or renovate it into a reception hall. There was a square outside the house, so it was convenient to park the carriage. Peach trees were planted on both sides of the flagstone road outside the shop. In the house, there was a small bridge overflowing water and bamboo. It had an attic and a courtyard with 2 entrances. It was very good. If it was on Earth, this house would be worth hundreds of millions of gold coins. He took the key to the house, changed the lock, and found a carpenter to make a plaque. In just 1 day, everything was gone. It would take at least 7 or 8 days for the house to be renovated and cleaned. When Xiao Pingan returned to the Changle Alley, the sky was completely dark. He found that his door was locked. The careless girl had already left. She probably ran away. Xiao Pingan was too lazy to care about her. Thinking that he had almost no time to eat all day and his stomach was rumbling with hunger, Xiao Pingan returned to the kitchen and began to busy himself. When he cooked another bowl of noodles for himself, there was a knock on the door outside the house. Looking, it was still the careless girl standing outside the door. Xiao Pingan helplessly slapped his forehead. Why did this female benefactor come back again? Xiao Pingan came to the door and opened it. He helplessly asked, "Didn't you leave?" "Humph, don't think that I don't know. I gave you so much money that you can stay in the best hotel for a few days. I only stayed here for 1 day. Isn't that a loss? I think you're a good person, so I've decided to stay here for the next few days." As the careless girl spoke, her nose suddenly twitched. She sniffed and looked in the direction of the kitchen. Her eyes lit up. "What smells so good?" Xiao Pingan's face changed. He quickly turned and ran to the kitchen. Unexpectedly, the careless girl was not slow either. She also rushed to the kitchen after Xiao Pingan. A moment later, there was a commotion in the kitchen. "This is mine." This was Xiao Pingan's voice. "Mine." This was the careless girl's voice. She sounded like a tiger. "This lady is hungry, and I've paid. Quickly let go. If you don't let go, this lady will bite you. Go and cook it yourself." You actually bite me, humph." P.S. Tiger recognized the fact that he was slow at writing. Therefore, the first 2 chapters' update time was extended to before 2 p.m. Chapter 234. Crackle, 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 crackle. Two strings of firecrackers that were a few meters long exploded at the entrance. Sparks flew everywhere, and red flowers covered the ground. This huge commotion attracted the attention of the passers-by on the streets. Xiao Pingan, who was wearing a green robe, stood at the entrance. Under the gazes of the surrounding people, he cupped his hands and bowed with a smile. When the firecrackers finished exploding, the surrounding people gathered around. Xiao Pingan took out a few copper coins. According to the customs of Shangjing City, he sprinkled them among the red paper scraps on the ground at the entrance, causing many children on the street to come over and snatch them. They were very happy. Then, Xiao Pingan pulled down the red rope beside him and opened the signboard. On the black signboard, there were 3 large golden words, Zhougong Building, that shone under the sunlight. It was rather imposing. Following the unveiling of the signboard, the couplets on both sides of the door were also unveiled. On the left and right of the door, there were 10 words. Connected together, they read, Dreams come at night, spirits predict good and bad. The Huangliang Shaman Gorge's affairs could not end without this. Ah, so it's a dream, soothsayer. When the surrounding people saw the couplets, they instantly understood. Ha ha, this dream soothsayer is really daring. This place is not far from Master Shuyue's carefree building. He actually dares to open another shop on the Tianyuan Bridge. Isn't he afraid of not having business? I heard that this house has changed owners a few days ago. He's rich. What can you do about it? The surrounding people discussed animatedly. Boss, how much is it for a dream soothsayer? Among the surrounding people, someone asked loudly. Xiao Pingan didn't say anything. He just coughed twice and gave a look behind him. That Chow Chow girl, who had been waiting excitedly for a long time, immediately took out a sign and placed it at the door. The sign also had 8 words on it. A dream is worth 100 gold, no bargaining. The surrounding people were instantly in an uproar. Everyone was dumbfounded. Is he crazy? 100 gold coins for a dream soothsayer. Master Shueyue only charges 30 gold coins for a dream soothsayer. This person thinks he's better than Master Shueyue. There's no dream soothsayer in the upper capital who charges such a high price. Could this person be a swindler? Xiao Pingan cupped his hands toward the outside. Without further explanation, he brought Chow Chow back inside. The interior of the Duke of Zhou building had been remodeled from a storefront. At the entrance was a marble porch and greenery. After going around the porch, one would arrive at the outer hall. There were tables in the outer hall, as well as a place for people to drink tea, chat, and read. After passing through the outer hall, one would arrive at the inner hall. The inner hall was in the courtyard, and the decorations were hidden and secluded. There were many bamboos planted in the surroundings, and it was very stylish. Today was the 28th of May. It had been almost 2 weeks since the battle at Beihai Harbor of the Blood Demon sect. In these 2 weeks, the courtyard that Xiao Pingan bought at Tianyuan Bridge had been refurbished and renovated. After adding some furniture, it looked brand new and was officially open for business. A few days ago, the renovation of the courtyard needed someone to watch over it. Xiao Pingan felt that it was too time-consuming to keep an eye on it, and it would delay his cultivation of fusing with the Realm Pearl. In addition, he had gained another domineering female tenant in Changle Alley. Xiao Pingan followed the principle of making the best use of everything and handed some work to Chow Chow, letting her keep an eye on the renovation of the courtyard for him. He didn't expect Chow Chow to be so interested in this work. When she heard that Xiao Pingan had arranged work for her, she was very excited and accepted it without hesitation. She started to seriously work for Xiao Pingan. Chow Chow looked carefree and inexperienced, but since there was someone secretly watching over her and protecting her, Xiao Pingan didn't have to worry about her safety. In this way, after 2 weeks, Miss Chow Chow had unknowingly mixed together with Xiao Pingan and became Xiao Pingan's assistant. Today was the opening of Duke Zhou's building, and Chow Chow looked even more excited than Xiao Pingan. She got up before the sun rose and put on makeup. Today, she wore a green dress and looked like a lotus flower in the pond. She stood tall and looked especially lively. Don't you think that 100 gold coins per use is too expensive? What if no one comes? When the two of them came to the inner hall, Chow Chow said to Xia Pingan with a worried tone, "In Shangjing City, many people can't even earn 100 gold coins a year, right?" Chow Chow didn't seem to have any concept of gold coins before, but after spending time with Xia Pingan, she seemed to slowly understand the value of a gold coin. 100 gold coins per dream. Was it expensive? It was indeed expensive for ordinary people, but for rich people, it was worth it as long as they could really predict good or bad luck. Even Master Shueiyue, who was a three-legged cat, was doing very well in Shangjing City. On the surface, it only cost 30 gold coins per time to interpret a dream, but in reality, the cost of those who looked for Master Shueiyue to interpret their dreams was far more than 30 gold coins. She was the disciple of Duke Zhou, a great master of ancient Chinese dream interpretation culture. If someone like her was placed in ancient times, she would definitely be more than qualified to be a dream diviner in the palace. 100 gold coins for you to interpret dream. You should be secretly happy if you were lucky. Moreover, this 100 gold coins per time was the best advertisement. There would definitely be people who couldn't help but want to try. Duke Zhou's building of Duke Zhou's dream interpretation was an absolutely high-end route, one that was even more high-end than Master Shueiyue's. Xia Pingan's goal was to become the #1 dream interpretation person in Shangjing City and even the Shang Dynasty. 100 gold coins was just the beginning. When he had a complete reputation, 1,000 gold coins per time wouldn't be a big problem. Of course, there was no need to say these words to Chow Chow. If you think it's expensive, then don't ask for your commission. I can even give customers a discount of 1 gold coin. Actually, if it's 99 gold coins, there might be more people coming. Xia Pingan was like a black-hearted boss as he said directly to Chow Chow. "You dare?" Chow Chow put her hands on her hips and stared at Xia Pingan fiercely. "You previously said that I would receive customers for you here and give me 1 gold coin per customer. Are you trying to go back on your word? This is my job. Work is to earn money. Don't think I don't understand." "Hee, you know too well. Miss Chow Chow, watch your attitude. You are now a waiter of Duke Zhou's building, and I am the shopkeeper. How can a waiter speak to a shopkeeper like this?" Xia Pingan said. Cao Cao's attitude immediately eased up, but she still pouted. "I don't care. In short, I can't pay you less than copper coin. If you dare to deduct my salary, be careful that I won't let you off. Okay, I won't pay you less than a copper coin. Let me ask you again. Do you know what you have to do?" "Humph, of course I know. Isn't it just asking customers to wait in the outer hall and chatting with them for a while? When I enter the inner hall, if I see the black dragon barking, I will know that you are in seclusion in the basement. If you don't want to be disturbed, I will pull the rope bell to remind you. Then I will come out and ask the customers outside to wait for a while to pass the time. If the black dragon doesn't bark, I will bring the customers in for you to interpret their dreams. If there are too many customers, I will give them number plates and ask them to line up." "Not bad, you're not stupid." Speaking of number plates, Chow Chow seemed to have thought of something as she asked in confusion, "By the way, why do you only prepare 3 number plates? Why don't you prepare more? What if there are too many customers? The rarer something is, the more precious it is. The rarer it is, the more precious it is. If you want to make money, you have to study the psychology of your customers. For those who are willing to spend 100 gold coins to decipher a dream, you have to make them feel proud and stand out from the masses. If you're like Master Shueiyue, you'll be at a disadvantage. From now on, I will only decipher the dreams of 3 people a day. From now on, you can give those 3 plates to whoever you want. Look, it won't be long before a lot of people will want to fawn on you. 1 plate that allows me to decipher dreams can be sold for hundreds of gold coins outside." Chow Chow looked at Xia Pingan with a suspicious look. "You really know how to interpret dreams. Why do I feel that you are here to cheat money?" Xia Pingan glared at Chow Chow. "All right, remember to bring people to the inner hall in the courtyard when they come. I will leave this place to you." After speaking, Xia Pingan left Chow Chow there and left the outer hall alone, returning to the courtyard. The inner hall was rather quiet. The black dragon was guarding here. Xia Pingan knew that no one would come for a while, So he simply entered the basement and started fusing the realm beads. These days, Xiao Pingon did not idle around. He continuously bought and fused realm beads that had not been fused in the night market of the Tianyuan Bridge. At this moment, the divine power in Xiao Pingon's secret mandala was already at 2,117 points. In a few more days, Xiao Pingon would be able to steadily advance to the three-sun realm. Chapter 235. The speed at which Xiao Pingon fused with realm pearls was simply unheard of. When he walked to the basement, Xiao Pingon estimated that he would be able to officially advance to the Three Suns realm in half a month at most. However, in the past half a month, as more and more realm pearls fused, a new problem gradually arose. That was, Xiao Pingon discovered that the realm pearls that he could buy at a relatively cheap price from the Heavenly Origin Bridge Night Vision and that he had not fused with before were getting fewer and fewer. Yes, there were only so many realm pearls that were commonly seen. The more realm pearls one fused with, the fewer realm pearls one could fuse with. Even if some realm pearls had not been fused with before, their prices were simply too exaggerated. Even if Xiao Pingon knew how to fuse with them, the realm pearls that cost thousands of gold coins or even tens of thousands of gold coins were not cost-effective at all. Not only that, Xiao Pingon discovered that after the Blood Demon Church was wiped out in Shangjing City on the 15th, the realm pearls sold in the Tianyuan Bridge's night market had unknowingly increased in price. In less than half a month, the realm pearls in the night market, whether it was in the shops or the bounty hunter stalls, had increased in price by more than 20%. The realm pearls were increasing in price. The rice, flour, oil, and other daily necessities in Shangjing City had also fluctuated slightly in the past half a month, but it was not obvious. According to the newspaper, the reason for the increase in price of realm pearls was that the northern border of the Shang dynasty was not very stable. A few large tribes of the northern demon wolf race showed signs of moving southward. Some groups and organizations that caught wind of this began to hoard realm pearls. This was an old trick. As long as there was any movement and the situation became tense, people would begin to hoard realm pearls, rice, and other things. According to some bounty hunters in the night market, for some unknown reason, the number of demons appearing in Shangjing City's outer sea and underground began to decrease in the past month. Once the number of demons decreased, the number of realm pearls appearing in the market also began to decrease, and the price naturally began to increase. The bounty hunters did not know why the number of demons appearing in the outer sea and underground decreased, because this situation was very abnormal and did not happen often. In short, something seemed to be wrong. Xiao Pingon keenly felt the undercurrent under Shangjing City's calm situation. Xiao Pingon went to the basement and sat down cross-legged. Then, he took out a realm pearl that was flashing with a faint purple brilliance. Xiao Pingon had bought this realm pearl for more than 800 gold coins at the night market yesterday. The seller of the realm pearl said that this realm pearl was the divine skill realm pearl. The so-called divine skill realm pearl was a realm pearl that could allow a summoner to master some special skills after fusing with it. The divine skill realm pearl would not allow a summoner to develop a new profession, nor would it allow a summoner to summon any characters or spells. It would only allow a summoner to master some special skills that could be performed with divine power. This realm pearl was called the Lotus Realm Pearl by Steps among the summoners. After the successful fusion, the skill he gave to the summoners was a kind of lotus steps that could be performed with divine power. One step, one lotus flower. Whether it was used for fighting, escaping at critical moments, or avoiding various attacks, it was a first-class powerful skill. Without the cooperation of the spiritual crystal, the death rate of fusing with this realm pearl was more than 90%. It was just that the spiritual crystal of this realm pearl was very rare, so the realm pearl was sold at such a cheap price. After dripping blood, Xiao Pingon was quickly wrapped in a cocoon of light and entered the world of the realm pearl. As soon as Xiao Pingon opened his eyes, he saw that he was in a hall. Around the hall, there were strong guards who were eyeing him covetously. A man wearing a dragon robe and an emperor's crown on his head with a hawk-like nose and wolf-like eyes, sat on the throne and stared at him coldly. Several eunuchs in the hall were also quietly looking at him with complicated expressions. The hall was silent. The atmosphere was oppressive, and killing intent was surging. Fourth younger brother. Everyone in the world says that you're the most talented among all the brothers in the Chow clan, except for our father. The man sitting on the throne opened his mouth with a malicious smile. I haven't heard fourth younger brother compose a poem for a long time. How about fourth younger brother compose a poem for me with the title Brothers? Based on fourth younger brother's talent, it shouldn't take you too long to compose a poem. It should be done within 7 steps. If fourth younger brother composes a poem well, I will reward you. If not, fourth younger brother would be disdained to compose a poem for me, which would be a crime of deceiving the emperor. I can only let fourth younger brother walk on the chopping block. Xiao Pingan looked up at the repulsive Chow Pai and sighed inwardly. This Chow Pai, in order to inherit Chow Chow's foundation, began to kill his own brothers as soon as Chow Chow passed away. He was really unscrupulous. Back then, when Chow Ong was still alive, this Chow Pai had absolutely no hope of inheriting Chow Chow's great cause, nor did he dare to have any ideas. However, when Chow Ong died, this Chow Pai jumped out. Back then, after Chow Ong died, Chow Chong was Chow Chow's favorite son. Then, Chow Chong died mysteriously. Now, Chow Pai wanted to kill him, forcing Chow Xiong to hang himself and seize Chow Zhang's military power. Next year, in order to show his magnanimity, Chow Zhang would be promoted to a duke. The year after that, Chow Zhang would come to Luoyang to meet Chow Pai again. Then, Chow Zhang, who had been strong since childhood and could fight with fierce beasts, inexplicably died of an illness in Luoyang. Chow Pai killed all his brothers, thinking that he could protect his position. However, he didn't know that his good friend Sima Yi, whom he had tried his best to protect, was waiting for him to do so. In the end, Chow Pai was only a dowry for Sima Yi. Was Sima Yi encouraging Chow Pai to eliminate his brothers by hook or by crook? Was she borrowing Chow Pai's hand to eliminate the power of the Chow family? This question was probably only known by Chow Pai and Sima Yi. Chow Chow was the minister of Han, but he held the emperor and ordered his vassals to seize the world of the great Han. However, in the end, the heavens gave Chow Chow a son, Chow Pai. The world that Chow Chow had worked hard to seize was given away by the prodigal Chow Pai after his death. The heavens were clear. It was truly frightening. Xiao Pingan estimated the distance between himself and Chow Pai. He wondered what would happen if he suddenly killed Chow Pai at this time. At this moment, he was only about 10 steps away from Chow Pai. If he walked 7 steps, he would be less than 10 steps away from Chow Pai. If he suddenly attacked, Xiao Pingan deliberated in his heart. He looked at Chow Ji's thin arms and legs and sighed. Forget it. The reward for changing history was indeed tempting. However, the risk this time was too great, and the benefits were uncertain. If he made a mistake, he might die. It was better to be safe. Chow Ji will naturally obey your majesty's orders. Xiao Pingan shook his head and began to take a step forward. He began to compose a poem. His clear voice resounded through the hall. Boil beans and hold them as soup. Soak them as juice. Soak them in the cauldron. Beans weep in the cauldron. Born from the same roots. Why be in such a rush to destroy each other? One step, one line. He finished composing 6 lines before taking the 7th step. In the outer hall of the Duke of Zhou's building, Chow Chow was like the front desk of this place. She propped her chin up with both hands and stared impatiently at the entrance. Her eyes were about to fall asleep from staring, but no one appeared. It was almost noon. Just as Cao Cao's stomach began to growl, and she began to miss Xia Pingan's cooking and thought that no one would come, a 30-something-year-old man with a resolute face and a noble temperament calmly walked in from behind screen. He held a folding fan in his hand and was accompanied by an old man in green. The man who walked in was the crown prince of the Shang dynasty, Beitang Wang Chuan. When Cao Cao saw Beitang Wang Chuan, a trace of shock and guilt appeared on her face. She even tilted her head and glanced at the inner hall. She hurriedly walked over from behind the table and quietly said, "Eldest brother, why have you come?" Beidang Wang Chuan looked at everything in the room. He then looked at Cao Cao's face. "I heard concubine mother say that you were not in the palace these few days and ran out to cause trouble. So I came to take a look." Cao Cao stuck out her tongue. She then rudely pushed Beidang Wang Chuan towards the door. "How am I causing trouble? I found a job now. Elder brother, leave quickly. Don't affect my work." Beidang Wang Chuan stood motionless like a rock. He only smiled and said, "I'm also a guest. You are working here. How can you push a guest out? Are you not afraid that I will complain to your shopkeeper?" Chapter 236. Hearing Beitang Wang Chuan say that he was a customer, Cao Cao could only helplessly look at him and put his hands on his waist. "All right, you're a customer. Interpreting dreams is 100 gold coins, not a single copper coin less. Hand over the money." 100 gold coins? Beitang Wang Chuan smiled slightly. Even if it was 1 million gold coins, it was nothing to him. He casually pulled out a 100 gold coin banknote and handed it to Cao Cao. "Can I go in now?" Cao Cao took the banknote and did not forget to warn Beitang Wang Chuan. "If you mess around, I'll tell Father Emperor that you bullied me. Don't worry, I'm just divining a dream. There are too many scammers among the dream diviners in Shangjing. Many people only know a little about the art of divining dreams and go around swindling people, saying that they are dream diviners. I want to see if the shopkeeper of this Duke Zhou building is a scammer. Wait here. I'll go inside and take a look. I'll call you when I'm done." After Cao Cao finished speaking, he put away the banknote and walked towards the inner hall. After a while, Cao Cao walked out. "All right, follow me. Only you can go in." Beidang Wang Chuan smiled and had the person following him stay in the outer hall. He then followed Cao Cao into the inner hall. After passing through a door and a corridor, they arrived at a small pavilion in the bamboo forest where they saw Xia Pingon. The 7 steps to compose a poem, Realm Pearl, provided Xia Pingon with 30 points of Shen power. The 7 steps to compose a poem had 30 words, and each word was 1 point of Shen power. After fusing with it, Xia Pingon silently experienced the Lotus Steps skill in the pavilion. The mystical aspect of this divine skill Realm Pearl was that once fused with it, Xia Pingon would be able to use Shun power to activate this footwork skill. This skill seemed to be a supplementary skill for summoners to fight and escape. Just now, Xia Pingon silently tried it out in the courtyard. This skill actually allowed him to step on the lotus leaves in the courtyard as if he was flying. His entire person felt like he was floating in the air. It was truly useful. Xia Pingon originally thought that no one would come to his door to steal his dreams today. He did not expect that there would be business early in the morning. Sitting behind the desk and looking at Beitang Wang Chuan, who was walking behind Cao Cao, Xia Pingon blinked. This Cao Cao's face was a little similar to Beitang Wang Chuan's, especially their noses. They were tall and straight, as if they were made from the same mold. This man was older than Cao Cao. He couldn't be Cao Cao's older brother, right? If he had a younger sister who ran out of the house for half a month, he would probably go and take a look, right? Xia Pingon seemed to have understood something. Compared to Xia Pingon, the moment she saw Xia Pingon, a mysterious light flashed in Beitang Wang Chuan's eyes. The shock in her heart was even more indescribable. There would naturally be people to investigate who Cao Cao had been with these past few days. The imperial family of Deshang would not allow a person of unknown origin to get close to the princess. It was just that the people who investigated were unable to find any information about this Yang Cheng before he came to Shangjing. They only knew that this Yang Cheng did not seem to lack money. Previously, he had rented a courtyard in Changle Alley near Ping Mountain. Yang Cheng did not deliberately get close to Cao Cao. Instead, Cao Cao was deliberately getting close to this Yang Cheng. Furthermore, Cao Cao was rather happy with him these past few days. Today, Beitang Wang Chuan heard that this Yang Cheng actually considered himself to be a dream seer and opened a dream seer house. Coincidentally, Beitang Wang Chuan left the palace this morning to handle some matters and went to visit a sick official. When she passed by Tianyuan Bridge on her way back, she could not help but want to take a look at the identity of this man who made Cao Cao so obedient. And once she saw Xia Pingan, Beitang Wang Chuan's Eye of Truth divine skill was activated. With a glance, she saw through the wishful mask on Yang Cheng's face. And the face under the mask, if it was not Xia Pingan who had joined the Judgment Army, who else could it be? Xia Pingan had made a great contribution last time and could be considered to have saved her once. These days, the Judgment Army had been looking for Xia Pingan all over Shangjing. It was just that this Xia Pingan seemed to have disappeared. Beidang Wang Chuan even thought that Xia Pingan had already escaped Shangjing. She did not expect that this guy had actually changed and become a dream seer. Interesting. Seeing Xia Pingan's true face under the mask, Beitang Wang Chuan's expression did not change, but her gaze became even more profound. Does this young master want to divine a dream? Please sit. Xia Pingan gestured for Beitang Wang Chuan to sit across from him. Hastily closing the door and leaving, before leaving, she used her gaze to warn Beitang Wang Chuan not to cause trouble. Hastily warning Beitang, Wang Chuan's gaze was noticed by Xia Pingan. In his heart, he was even more certain about the relationship between Beitang Wang Chuan and Cao Cao. Cao Cao and this man should be siblings. Inside the room, there was a burning sandalwood incense. It was quite peaceful and very lively. Xia Pingan was about to ask Beitang Wang Chuan what dream he wanted to divine when the boy of fortune jumped out from Beitang Wang Chuan's secret mandala and onto the table in front of the two. The boy of fortune's face transformed into a figurine mask. The boy of fortune took off his mask and pointed at Xia Pingan. Then he pointed at his own eyes and pointed at Beitang Wang Chuan, making a series of hand gestures. Xia Pingan was also stunned. What the boy of fortune meant was that the man opposite him had already seen through the mask on his face and knew his true face. How could this be? Then, the boy of fortune wrote 3 words in the air in front of Xia Pingan. Crown Prince. Fuck. If this man was the Crown Prince, then wasn't Cao Cao the Princess of the Shang? Beidang Wang Chuan did not notice at all that the boy of fortune had appeared in front of him and had already revealed his true identity to Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan quivered and looked at Beidang Wang Chuan again. Xia Pingan's gaze also became deep. The two people in the room looked at each other for more than 10 seconds. You look at me, I look at you. The atmosphere was a little strange. Finally, it was Xia Pingan who broke the silence. He pretended to not know anything and asked, "Does this young master want to divine a dream?" "That's right. I came today to divine a dream." Beitang Wang Chuan also spoke. "Why is the price of a dream divination here so much higher than other places?" "There are many famous dream divination masters in Shangjing. Even if they divine a dream once, it's only a few dozen gold coins. You want to divine a dream for 100 gold coins. Why?" This young master has asked a good question. I divine a dream based on my ability. Since young master is the first customer of Duke Zhou's building, I will divine a dream for young master for free. Young master can take back this 100 gold coins. As Xia Pingan spoke, he took out the 100 gold coins banknote and placed it on the table, pushing it over. Beidang Wang Chuan laughed. "Haha, as long as the divination is accurate, this 100 gold coins is nothing. I can give you 10,000 gold coins. All right, then I ask young master to tell me which dream you want to divine. I will divine it for young master." Xia Pingan said. Beidang Wang Chuan's expression became a little more serious. He thought for a while and said, "I had a dream the day before yesterday. I saw the army being defeated. I was in the midst of the defeated army. There was a raging flame beside me, burning my body. I wonder if this dream is auspicious or inauspicious. Let me perform a dream for young master." Xia Pingan stretched out his hand and pointed at Beidang Wang Chuan's forehead. That hazy dream appeared in front of Xia Pingan like a projection. In the dream, Xia Pingan saw the army being defeated like a landslide. Beidang Wang Chuan was dressed in armor and was in the midst of the defeated army of the Shang dynasty. He wanted to salvage the situation, but suddenly the ground in front of Beitang Wang Chuan burned with a raging fire. That fire began to burn Beitang Wang Chuan's body. Beitang Wang Chuan's body glowed with a bright red light, like a furnace. And in that fire, Beitang Wang Chuan did not seem to feel much pain. The strange thing about dreams was that everything in the dream did not appear according to logic. It was grotesque and variegated. Just like Beitang Wang Chuan's dream, he did not know how the army was defeated, but in the midst of the defeated army, a fire suddenly ignited beside him. It came without a beginning or end. How is it? Beitang Wang Chuan asked. Young master's dream is split into two. There is inauspicious and auspicious. Xiaopinggan said. What do you mean? Seeing the defeated army, there is inauspiciousness. This is an ominous sign. But young master is in the midst of the defeated army. There's a raging fire burning his body. This is the sign of a noble person helping you. Xiaopinggan was interpreting the dream. This interpretation of the dream was not made up by him, nor was he trying to flatter himself. It was Beitang Wang Chuan's dream that really had such a meaning. Hearing Xiaopinggan say this, Beitang Wang Chuan's expression became more serious. Apart from this, what else does this dream foretell? In young master's dream, the army was defeated without any reason. It happened completely suddenly. Once it appeared, it involved young master. This means that the ominous event will also happen suddenly, catching young master unprepared. Perhaps it will happen in the near future, or perhaps it has already happened and young master has not discovered it. Chapter 237. The road outside the Duke of Zhou building was filled with people and carriages. Just as Beitang Wang Chuan walked out of the Duke of Zhou building, a bronze-colored carriage pulled by two white horses passed by. The people in the carriage were originally looking at the scenery on both sides of the street when they suddenly saw Beitang Wang Chuan walk out of the Duke of Zhou building. The people in the carriage almost thought that they were seeing things. Looking again, when they saw the elder at Beitang Wang Chuan's side, the people in the carriage felt their hearts tremble. Beitang Wang Chuan's carriage was stopped in front of the Duke of Zhou building. It was a carriage pulled by two black horses. Beitang Wang Chuan's brows were slightly furrowed as he walked out and got into the carriage. The carriage began to move quickly on the road. Pull over to the side of the road. Stop and make way. Let that black carriage pass first. In the bronze-colored carriage, the person sitting in the carriage ordered the driver. The bronze-colored carriage slowed down and pulled over to the side of the road, allowing Beitang Wang Chuan's black carriage to pass in front. When Beitang Wang Chuan's carriage passed, the bronze-colored carriage turned around and went back the way it had come. When it passed by the Duke of Zhou building, the window curtain of the bronze-colored carriage was lifted. Behind the window of the carriage, the face of a middle-aged man in his 50s, who had lived like a prince, was revealed. That man squinted his eyes in surprise and looked at the Duke of Zhou building's facade once more, feeling surprised. The crown prince, Beitang Wang Chuan, had actually come here to divine dreams. What the hell? But the man in the carriage did not get out of the carriage. He only flashed past on the road. Inside the carriage, Beitang Wang Chuan was still frowning slightly. In truth, he was skeptical of Xiaopinggan's dream divination. Xiaopinggan should not know his identity, right? Or was Xiaopinggan using that dream to hint at something and claim credit? But even if it was a hint, this was not right. Dreams were divine for the future, not the past. Was Xiaopinggan talking nonsense? Or did he really have the ability to reveal good and bad fortune in dreams? Beitang Wang Chuan was very clear about the methods of the dream seers in Shangjing City. It could be said that more than 90% of the dream seers in Shangjing City were scammers. They were the tricks of low-level summoners who were desperate and wanted to make a fortune. The way these dream seers scammed people was to first buy the Dream Master's Realm Pearl and the corresponding spiritual crystal at a high price. After fusing with the Dream Master's Realm Pearl and obtaining the dream playing technique, they would then use the dream playing technique as a cover to swindle people in Shangjing City. These scammers were very popular in the Shangjing city. Usually, they would be able to earn a lot of money. As long as they were eloquent, they would be able to earn back the money spent on the realm beads and spiritual wool crystals in less than 2 years. In the future, they would have the ability to make a living. Just now, the one who gave way at the side of the road was the vice principal of Defong Courtyard, Gu Fengshun. He has already recognized your highness. Inside the carriage, the elder next to Beitang Wang Chuan spoke calmly. Gu Fengshun, Beitang Wang Chuan finally freed his thoughts from the Duke of Zhou building. Why did he come to Tianyuan Bridge? Defong Courtyard is in charge of managing the Bounty Hunter Association and the Wandering Summoners in Shangjing City. Gu Fengshun also likes to collect spiritual wool crystals and rare treasures from the demonic Dragon Palace. I heard that he often goes to Pengwan Auction House to pick up items. It is not strange for him to come to Tianyuan Bridge. He should have just left the auction house. Beitang Wang Chuan nodded. However, he was still thinking about how to deal with that Xia Pinggan. Xia Pinggan was undoubtedly a talent and was also a skywalker. He should be very useful, but he was not easy to control. Furthermore, Xia Pinggan was related to Cao Cao. Cao Cao had never been so concerned about another man before. However, with Xia Pinggan's current status, how could he be worthy of Cao Cao? Or perhaps Cao Cao could completely tie Xia Pinggan down and use Xia Pinggan to gather those skywalkers for his use. The Crown Prince's thoughts were already half that of a ruler and half that of a human, making it difficult for people to guess. Just as Beitang Wang Chuan's carriage left Tianyuan Bridge, a small green bird suddenly flew over from the sky. It was as fast as lightning, and the coachman caught it. He then passed the bird through a small hole in the front window of the carriage. The bird flew into the carriage and landed on Beitang Wang Chuan's hand. From its beak, it spat out a small ball that was wrapped in talismans and wax. Beitang Wang Chuan received the small ball and crushed it. A slip of paper appeared in his hand, and the bird also disappeared in a flash of light. Seeing that slip of paper, Beitang Wang Chuan's expression changed. There was a line of words on the slip of paper. The Garrison Army's 3rd Division has more than 1,200 people infected with corpse poison and mutated. The 3rd Division's encampment has been completely sealed off. The Army commander of the 18th Division, Wei Tianlei, and the Judgment Army have already gone to deal with it. When he saw the 2 words, corpse poison, Beitang Wang Chuan's hand that was holding the slip of paper could not help but tremble. Corpse poison. That was the Blood Demon Church's most insane method. Once a normal person was infected, they would turn into a blood demon zombie in an instant. They would be bloodthirsty and would not recognize their own family. Moreover, there was no cure for the corpse poison. Once infected, the only path left was to destroy the body. This was the Blood Demon Church's revenge. The Blood Demon Church had already made a comeback. Infecting the Garrison Army with corpse poison was a blatant show of strength. If the corpse poison spread through the capital, the consequences would be unthinkable. Beitang Wang Chuan suddenly thought of the words that Xia Pinggan had said when he read his dreams. He did not think that it would come true so quickly. Quickly returned to the Imperial Palace. A voice came from within the carriage. The black carriage was still moving on the street, but a thick black fog filled the interior of the carriage. When the thick black fog disappeared, Beitang Wang Chuan and the elder who had been sitting in the carriage had already disappeared in an instant. Inside the carriage, Child of Fortune, who had been hanging upside down like a bat in front of Beitang Wang Chuan's eyes, nimbly turned around and landed on the seat in the carriage. Child of Fortune blinked, and in the next second, he also disappeared from the carriage. A few seconds later, Child of Fortune appeared in a military camp. This military camp was surrounded by mountains. It looked like it should be a place dozens of kilometers away from the capital. The military camp was in chaos. There were many corpses wearing military uniforms on the ground. Under the heavy machine gun's fire, the soldiers who rushed out of the barracks had blood spurting out of their bodies. Some of the soldiers were shot, but they still rushed forward as if they did not feel pain. They opened their bloody mouths and roared ferociously. There were also some who had their limbs broken by the heavy machine gun's bullets. They fell to the ground and were still twisting like zombies. The soldiers who rushed out of the barracks had blood-red eyes. Their joints were stiff and they were twisting strangely. Mucus and pieces of flesh were hanging from the corners of their mouths. Some of them were holding bloody intestines and human organs in their hands. They were constantly rushing out of the barracks. Inside the barracks, gunshots were heard everywhere. The soldiers with guns were fighting with the soldiers who were eating people. The scene was like hell. Child of Fortune's figure passed through countless bullets and figures who were fighting to the death. A team of Judgment Army finally flew over in an instant. Countless fireballs flew out and fell on the red-eyed and twisted soldiers who did not feel pain, turning them into ashes. 2 people from the Judgment Army were like lightning amidst the flames and gunshots. They quickly rushed to the camp's dining hall and kitchen and took out half a pot of soup from the dining hall. The source of the corpse poison has been identified. The soup in the soldiers' dining hall was poisoned by someone. Order the entire army to immediately check all the food, water, and food reserves in the army's dining hall. Before the check is completed, no one is allowed to eat. A general of the Shang kingdom roared outside the camp. It's already noon. I'm hungry. Can I eat something? As a shopkeeper, you can't let your employees work with empty stomachs. He hurriedly came to the inner hall, touched his stomach with one hand, and said to Xiao Pingan, who seemed to be resting with his eyes closed. At this moment, Xiao Pingan was also shocked, because he had just seen all the images sent by Child of Fortune. He did not expect that the 18 Garrison Corps in Shangjing City would have an accident. Corpse poison? There was no doubt that the Blood Demon Church had returned. *T. This Shangjing City was not a safe place. Looking at Chow Chow, Xiao Pingan stood up and thought for a moment, how about we cook noodles? Chow Chow suddenly became happy. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said with shining eyes, Okay, I want to eat the crab noodles you made last time. Chapter 238. On the first day of the Duke of Zhou Building's opening, they only accepted one transaction and earned 100 gold coins. Ordinary citizens probably didn't know what had happened in the military camp, but the atmosphere in Shangjing City suddenly became tense. That was because when Xiao Pingan bought a realm pearl at the Tianyuan Bridge night market that night, he saw a 5-man team of the Judgment Army patrolling the night market. Unless there was a special situation, the Judgment Army wouldn't easily appear in the city. Following the appearance of the Judgment Army, many people felt that the atmosphere in Shangjing City had changed. On the second day, the news that someone in the Garrison Army in Shangjing City had been infected with corpse poison had spread throughout the city. Everyone in Shangjing City started to panic. The news that the Blood Demon Church was making a comeback and wanted to turn Shangjing City into a ghost town started to spread like wildfire. As long as Xiao Pingan walked around the streets, he would be able to hear the discussions going on in the taverns and tea houses. On the second and third days, Xiao Pingan's Duke of Zhou building didn't receive any business for 2 consecutive days. However, Xiao Pingan had absorbed more than 10 realm pearls in these 2 days and steadily advanced to the 3-sun realm. On the morning of May 31st, Xiao Pingan's Duke of Zhou building had just opened when Xiao Pingan welcomed his second customer. It was a middle-aged man in his 50s who lived like a prince. Xiao Pingan received him in the inner hall. Sir, you look a little unfamiliar. May I know your name? Xiao Pingan asked with a smile. My surname is Gu. The man carefully smiled and even looked a little humble as he watched Xiao Chao leave. Then, he turned to look at Xiao Pingan. I was passing by today and saw the signboard at your door. It's a little interesting, so I would like to invite you to try taking a dream. This person knew Cao Cao's identity. Upon seeing this man's expression, Xiao Pingan understood. This was really strange. 2 people had come to his door consecutively, yet they both knew Cao Cao. What kind of luck was this? Could this man have been called over by Beitang Wangchuan, or did he have other motives? Xiao Pingan's mind spun, but he still asked, What dream does Mr. Gu want to have? Yesterday, I had a dream. I dreamt that I was wearing a brand new brocade robe. I wonder what this dream meant. Gu Fengshen asked. Let me perform a dream. As he spoke, Xiao Pingon had already used a secret technique and projected that person's dream for a careful look. Dream seers didn't necessarily need to use the dream divination technique. As long as the person who came for the divination could explain their dream clearly, it would be fine. However, among the dream seers in Shangjing City, everyone was used to using the dream divination technique to strengthen their identity. Those who came for the divination would only feel assured after seeing the dream divination technique. Therefore, the dream divination technique slowly became the symbol of a dream seer. Of course, to a dream soothsayer, there was another meaning to the dream soothsayer, which was that they could discover important details in the dream world that were overlooked by those who requested the soothsayer. In the dream world, the surroundings were a little blurry. There were clouds of fog, but one could see that the man in front of him was wearing a brand new brocade robe. He was looking at his brocade robe in the fog and was very happy. Xiao Pingon waved his hand lightly, and the dream world dissipated. Does Mr. Gu have a wife or concubine at home? Xiao Pingon asked. This question caused Gu Fengshen's expression to change slightly. He was a little embarrassed. Cough, cough. I only have one wife at home. Thinking of his wife, Gu Fengshen shuddered in his heart. His wife was one of the famous Shangjing's 3 tigers in the circle of Shangjing City. Although he was quite impressive outside and was considered a figure in the imperial court, at home, he had to listen to his wife. It was very normal for the heads of the wealthy families in Shangjing City to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. The man in front of him was someone who could recognize people and spend 100 gold coins for a soothsayer. He should not be the kind of person who lacked money. However, such a person only had one wife. If the 2 of them were not deeply in love and could not tolerate a 3rd person, then this man's wife could be a lioness from the east of the river. She could keep this man obedient and not dare to have any improper thoughts. However, the dream world of this man in front of him indicated that this man was not someone who was faithful to one woman until death. Therefore, there was only the second possibility. Xiao Pingon's thoughts turned and a smile appeared on his face. In the next few days, Mr. Gu's virtuous wife will take in a concubine for Mr. Gu. Mr. Gu is blessed. Gu Fengshen's expression did not change much, but he was somewhat stunned. The tigress at home was taking in a concubine for him? That was impossible, unless the sun rose from the west. This dream soothsayer was completely spouting nonsense. Although this was what he thought, Gu Fengshen did not say it out loud. He only smiled and thanked Xiao Pingon before taking his leave. When he walked out of the Duke of Zhou building, Gu Fengshen was still wondering if he had made a mistake. Had the crown prince only come here to see his sister and not to read dreams? He had heard that the Wanyu princess often ran out of the palace and liked to fool around outside. Today, he had seen it for himself. However, he did not know what ability this Yang Cheng had to be able to make the Wanyu princess his assistant. Perhaps this Duke of Zhou building was opened by the Wanyu princess herself for fun. Gu Fengshen thought to himself as he got into the carriage. Just as he got into the carriage, another carriage immediately stopped in front of the Duke of Zhou building. The carriage door opened and Manager Lan of the Fearless House, who was dressed in a long purple robe, alighted. He looked up and sized up the Duke of Zhou building. The corners of his eyes twitched. After taking a deep breath, he walked into the Duke of Zhou building with his chest puffed out. In the inner hall of the Duke of Zhou building. Do you know that person just now? Xiao Pingon deliberately asked Cao Cao. Cao Cao immediately appeared a little nervous. No way. Who is he? How would I know? I think the way he looked at you was a little strange. Xiao Pingon asked as he stroked his chin. Don't those oily uncles always have that kind of expression when they see a beautiful girl like me? It's so disgusting. Cao Cao stuck out her tongue. All right, here's your commission. Xiao Pingon tossed a gold coin to Cao Cao. Cao Cao took the gold coin from Xiao Pingon and gloomily returned to the outer hall. Seriously, there was no sense of accomplishment at all. Cao Cao grumbled in her heart. At that moment, Cao Cao, who had just returned to the outer hall, saw someone she did not know behind the entrance. Cao Cao's eyes lit up. She could finally earn a gold coin openly. She immediately walked over and asked with a smile, "Sir, are you here to divine dreams?" Cao Cao's beauty dazzled Lan Wuwei's eyes. Lan Wuwei thought, it turns out that Xia Ping'an is also a lecher. Once he has money, he hides women in a golden house in Shangjing City. This guy really knows how to enjoy life. "Yes, I'm here to divine dreams." Lan Wei said. "Mr. Yang is still inside. Sir, please come with me." Cao Cao directly led Lan Wuwei to the inner hall. Seeing Lan Wuwei, Xia Ping'an knew that His Highness the Crown Prince had sent someone here. The one who left just now should be a coincidence. This was the real master. If it wasn't for His Highness the Crown Prince's orders, the chances of him meeting this person in Shangjing City was almost negligible. Cao Cao closed the door and left. Looking at Lan Wuwei, who was staring at him with shining eyes, Xia Ping'an smiled bitterly. He directly took off the Rui mask on his face and revealed his original face. "Shopkeeper Lan, long time no see." Lan Wuwei smiled bitterly and pretended to be enthusiastic. "You should contact me. I thought something happened to you. If something happened to you, I'm also responsible. Ahem, I haven't received any news from the Blood Demon sect recently. I plan to change my identity and lurk in Shangjing City. I didn't expect to be discovered by you. Shopkeeper Lan, really? I know you're the most conscientious. The superiors didn't misjudge you. This is my duty as a shadow guard." The two men pretended to be polite, both of them pretending that Xia Ping'an had never left the shadow guards from the beginning to the end. Xia Ping'an didn't ask Lan Wuwei how he knew he was hiding here. Lan Wuwei also didn't mention that Xia Ping'an had disappeared after the last mission. Based on his words, Lan Wuwei seemed to be fawning on Xia Ping'an. After a few polite words, the two sides didn't seem to be so awkward. The atmosphere also eased a lot. Lan Wuwei finally revealed his purpose. Last time, the Blood Demon sect assassinated the Crown Prince. The superiors are very satisfied with the information you provided. They want to reward you. Oh, what kind of reward? Xia Ping'an knew that the Real show was coming. Ahem, in view of your previous contributions, Lin, he has decided to promote you to the inspector. I congratulate the inspector here. I wish you a bright future. Speaking of Xia Ping'an's new position, Lan Wuwei was a little jealous. His tone also became more respectful. Chapter 239. There were many unexpected twists and turns in the human world. When Xia Ping'an thought that he would no longer have any contact with the Judgment Army and was preparing to become self-employed, he unexpectedly received a big gift from the Judgment Army. Of course, this gift did not come from the Judgment Army, but from the Crown Prince, Beitang Wanchuan. Beitang Wanchuan wanted to pull him back into the Judgment Army and entrust him with an important task. However, he was just a small figure in the Judgment Army. Beitang Wanchuan had never seen him before, but he recognized him the first time they met that day. The biggest possibility was that he already knew his identity in the Judgment Army. At the same time, he also found out from the Blood Demon Church that he was a spacewalker and was being hunted down by them. While knowing his identity, he still wanted to promote him. The intention behind this appointment was thought-provoking. If he remembered correctly, the position of inspector in the Judgment Army was the title of a black bishop. Seeing that Xia Ping'an was not too excited, Lan Wuwei continued to explain, "The arrest warrant issued by the police station for you has been revoked. Sir, you are now free and can return to your original appearance to move around in public. Sir, you don't have to worry." Unknowingly, Lan Wuwei had begun to address Xia Ping'an as Sir. The title Sir in the Shang Dynasty and the Judgment Army could only be enjoyed when one reached a certain level. At the very least, one had to be a black bishop to enjoy this title. The position of a black bishop was above that of a bishop. If he was not in Shangjing City, a black bishop would be equivalent to the highest person in charge of the Dark War God Church in an ordinary city. His previous title in the Dark War God Church was auxiliary priest. Now that he had been promoted by 3 levels, he had directly skipped the 2 levels of priest and bishop to become a black bishop. Judging from Lan Wuwei's words, he still did not know that he was a spacewalker and was being hunted down by the Blood Demon Church. Only Beitang Wangshuan and the higher-ups of the Judgment Army knew that he was a spacewalker. After thinking for a moment, Xia Pingon slowly opened his mouth. "May I ask, what am I responsible for as an inspector?" 2 days ago, the envoy inspector of the Eastport Supervision Office in Shangjing City failed to fuse with the Realm Pearl and was seriously injured. There is no one in charge of the Eastport Supervision Office. If Lord takes over, you will be in charge of the Eastport Supervision Office. Lan Wuwei said, "You must have heard a lot of news in Shangjing City in the past 2 days. The Blood Demon sect is making a comeback, stirring up trouble in Shangjing City and spreading corpse poison. Everyone in Shangjing City is in a state of panic now. It's time to punish the military personnel. Please don't decline. This is why I want to leave the Dark Shadow Squad." Cough, cough. Your lordship's identity as a shadow guard was exposed last time. This time, it can be considered as coming out from the shadows. Xia Pingon remained silent. He was still pondering and hesitating. The Eastport of Shangjing City has always been prosperous, with good and bad people mixed in. The position of the Eastport Supervision Office is a lucrative one. In that position, you can enjoy the cultivation resources provided by the Judgment Army. You can also get whatever you want. In addition to gold coins, you can also get some rare cultivation resources easily. To be honest, even if Lord's Duke Zhou building is crowded every day, it can't be compared with the envoy inspector's job. F*CK. Did Beitang Wangshuan know that I want to make money? He actually arranged such a lucrative job for me. Lord, you can consider it. If you make up your mind, you can take up the position in the Eastport Supervision Office at any time. By the way, this is the reward you receive for the information you provided last time, as well as your envoy inspector's token and uniform. As Lan Wuwei spoke, he moved his hand and put a big box in front of Xia Pingon. After putting these things down, Lan Wuwei tactfully excused himself. After Lan Wuwei left, Xia Pingon put on his wishful mask again and opened the box. The box was divided into 2 layers. On the top layer, there was a golden envoy inspector's token of the Judgment Army. Under the token, there was a banknote worth 50,000 gold coins. This reward was generous enough. If it was an ordinary person, they could buy a house in Shangjing City and live a good life with this reward. On the bottom layer of the box, there was the Black Bishop's robe and an exquisite magic staff that symbolized the Black Bishop's authority. Looking at those things, Xia Ping and rubbed his nose. Beidang Wangshuan had given him a heavy responsibility and had also given him room to choose. This was rather interesting. Who knew what he would face after this if he chose to refuse? "Oh, what's this?" Cao Cao's voice came from outside the door. As soon as Cao Cao entered the inner hall, she saw the box on Xia Pingon's table. She walked over to take a look and picked up the envoy inspector's token. She was dumbfounded. "This is Cao Cao, I forgot to tell you. I'm a member of the Judgment Army Shadow Squad. I have a new task now." Xia Pingon smiled and made a decision in his heart. Since Beitang Wangshuan did not mind his identity as a spacewalker and had expressed his intentions, then he would lean on a big tree and enjoy the shade. The most important thing was to use the Judgment Army and the Shang Dynasty as a big tree to quickly strengthen his strength. Anyway, he was mortal enemies with the sovereign demon god. If he weakened and attacked the Blood Demon Church, he would fight for more opportunities and living space for the spacewalkers from Earth. However, the business of the Dream Seer at the Duke of Zhou's building had just begun. It would be a pity if he gave it up. In the future, I'll make it so that those who want to read my dreams have to make an appointment in advance. This way, it will make me look more impressive and more in line with my status. A master of reading dreams like me can't just pay for it. I have to make an appointment. Translator's note. In any case, he only needed to divine the dreams of 3 people each time. It would not take long. The Duke of Zhou's building has only been open for a few days. "You're not going to be a dream seer anymore?" Cao Cao asked, somewhat disappointed and annoyed. She thought that Beitang Wangshuan did not want her to continue messing around outside, so Yang Cheng was put in an important position by the Judgment Army and given a new position. In reality, the reason behind this was more complicated than she had imagined. Of course, the Duke of Zhou's building will be open. Why wouldn't it be open? However, in the future, if you want to come and divine the dreams, you have to queue up and make an appointment. Once 3 people have been booked, I will find time to come here and divine the dreams of others. Then what should I do? Chow Chow pouted. Could it be that you want me to guard this empty room all day? Wouldn't that be boring to death? Xiao Pingan spread his hands. That's simple. I'll hire another person and get him to guard this place for me to register the guests who want to come and divine the dreams. 3 people at a time. Once there are enough people, inform me. I will arrange a time for them to come here and divine their dreams. When the time comes, you can continue to be my assistant. This was the idea that Xia Pingan had thought of. It was just like using a bamboo cage to catch fish. Usually, he would place the bamboo cage in the water and wait for the fish to enter the cage before harvesting them. This was simple. When Chow Chow heard this, she clapped her hands and laughed again. Not bad, not bad. Let's do it this way. When the guests come and make an appointment, we will come again. This way, we won't have to guard this place all day. I think you don't need to hire anyone else. I have a few maidservants at my side. I'll choose the smarter one and have her watch the shop. What do you think? Xiao Pingan smiled. That's the best. Although he said this, Xiao Pingan thought that this princess would be a partner of Duke Zhou's building. It would be interesting to partner with the princess to open a shop. However, Xiao Pingan could also see that Chow Chow just liked to play. She had a young girl's temperament. She felt that this was something new and wanted to try it. She didn't have any bad intentions. When she felt bored, she might want to try other things and put this matter aside. I didn't expect that you could become the envoy inspector of the Judgment Army. When are you going to take up the post? Don't tell me it's today. Chow Chow took a look at the token and asked directly. From Cao Cao's tone, he only felt that the envoy inspector of the Judgment Army was a small official who could do anything. There was nothing special about it. These days, the Blood Demon sect may be stirring up trouble in Shangjing City. The corpse poison has made people panic. Many people may die. I'm going to take up the post tomorrow and do my part. Oh, you should say that. Saving people is indeed more important than reading people's dreams. Chow Chow nodded sensibly. But before you take up the post tomorrow, can I ask you for a favor? What's the matter? Chow Chow then licked her lips as her beautiful eyes started to shine again. Before you leave, can you cook the Buddha jumps over the wall that you made last time? I'll watch from the side. Don't worry, I won't pass your secret recipe to others. I've helped you for a few days and only earned 2 gold coins. You should compensate me. It's not too much, okay? Chapter 240. His Majesty has finished his Western tour and will return to Shangjing City in a few days. Zombie poison was found in Shangjing City's Shi town yesterday. A family of 4 was infected. The Judgment Army has dealt with it in time. The Shangjing City police station reminds you that if you find any suspicious person, report it in time, and you can receive a reward of up to 10,000 gold coins. The black rental carriage was running merrily on the street. The pedestrians on the street were in a hurry. The carriage was wearing raincoats and hiding under the carriage shed. They wiped the rain on their faces and continued to drive the carriage. Outside the window, the rain was falling nonstop. The raindrops hit the window. The entire Shangjing City was shrouded in a misty rain and the sky was lead gray. Xia Pingan sat in the carriage. He was not wearing the wishful mask on his face. Instead, he had returned to his original appearance. He was wearing a black robe. He looked at the newspaper he had received in the morning. His fingers tapped on the window gently. His mind was working quickly. Today was the 2nd day, the 1st of June. The heavy rain today seemed to indicate the arrival of the rainy season in Shangjing City. After meeting with Lan Wuwei yesterday, Xia Pingan directly threw the key to the Duke of Zhou building to Chow Chow. Early in the morning, Xia Pingan was ready to go to the Donggang inspection department to take up his post. The matter of the Duke of Zhou building was completely handed over to Chow Chow. These days, there were 4 or 5 cases of zombie poison reported in the newspaper. However, other than the Garrison Army incident, there were not many people who were poisoned in the other cases. At least 1 or 2 people were poisoned, and at most 7 or 8 people were poisoned. Moreover, these zombie poisons did not cause much of an impact and were already suppressed by the Judgment Army. Even so, the entire Shanjing City was still in a state of panic. The people who were poisoned had turned into ashes. However, the members of the Blood Demon Church who poisoned them were not found. There were also no useful clues. It was no wonder that the people in Shanjing City were somewhat frightened. To be honest, Xiao Pingan had some sympathy for the Judgment Army and Beitang Wanchuan. This was because it was too easy to hide a few people in such a bustling city like Shanjing City. The current situation was that the enemy was in the dark while they were in the open. It was really not an easy task for the Judgment Army to catch them. Ordinary people needed to face each other to use poison. However, for a summoner who had mastered more powerful spells, as long as they had corpse poison in their hands, it was too easy for them to harm others. They could do it without anyone noticing. The people who had been infected by the ptomaine in the newspaper had nothing in common with each other. Some of them were infected when they returned home from work. Some were infected when they returned from the market. Some were infected when they didn't go anywhere at home. And some were infected after eating a meal in a roadside restaurant. How were they supposed to investigate this? To the Great Zhou country and the Judgment Army, finding the hidden Blood Demon Church members was even harder than killing the Blood Demon Church members that had already appeared. Perhaps this was one of the reasons why Beitang Wanchuan promoted him. After all, he had a brilliant battle record before. Xiao Pingan even suspected that Beitang Wanchuan might have guessed that he had successfully integrated with the illusory child, Realm Pearl. However, what he didn't expect was that he didn't summon the illusory child but the child of fortune. The emperor of the Shang dynasty was Beitang Zhaotian. He had been touring the West and had not been in Shanjing City. Everything in Shanjing City was presided over by Beitang Wanchuan. Xiao Pingan wasn't sure if Beitang Zhaotian had returned to Shanjing City this time because of the dangerous situation facing Shanjing City. However, the newspapers in Shanjing City had placed the news of Beitang Zhaotian's return in the most eye-catching place. This undoubtedly had the effect of calming people's hearts and warning them. When Xiao Pingan finished reading the newspaper in the rental carriage, the carriage had already arrived at the Donggang district of Shanjing City. Yes, the Donggang district was a district on the east side of Shanjing City near the sea. The docks were all here. Xiao Pingan was not unfamiliar with the Donggang district. He could even be said to be familiar with it. The Donggang district was very rich, but there were also many poor people. Every day, there would be a large number of people and goods coming and going. The entire Donggang district was shrouded in rain and fog. The carriage directly arrived at the Donggang district's Sea God Avenue and stopped outside the gate of a 3-story building made of granite. "Sir, we've arrived." The coachman got off the carriage, opened an umbrella, and opened the door of the carriage. "You've worked hard." Xiao Pingan also opened his own black umbrella. When he got off the carriage, he gave the driver an extra silver coin. Finally, after the driver thanked him, Xiao Pingan directly walked towards the building on the side of the road. The driver glanced at the pure copper signboard outside the building and quickly drove the carriage away. Outside the iron gate of the building, there was only one line of words on the signboard: Donggang District Inspection Office of the Ruling Army. The raindrops falling from the sky washed the signboard exceptionally bright. The cyan granite of the building became darker after being drenched by the rain. The gate was wide open. Inside the gate was a courtyard with a spacious lawn and a fountain. Behind the fountain was a staircase that led to the top floor of the building. Xiao Pingan didn't see anyone standing guard, but in the gatehouse next to the gate, there was a gray-haired old man and a dog. They were sleeping in the gatehouse. The inspection office of the ruling army was an important place. Its status was even higher than that of the Donggang police station. Therefore, it could not be as lax as it seemed. Xiao Pingan glanced at the old man in the gatehouse and found that the dog beside the old man was a real dog instead of a summoned one. The dog was sleeping soundly on the ground. The old man's aura was a bit weird. He seemed to be a one-sun realm cultivator, yet he was not. In front of the old man, there was a lamp on the table in the gatehouse. When Xiao Pingan entered the gate, the lamp's flame flickered. The drowsy old man raised his head. Only then did Xiao Pingan discover that the old man was blind in one of his eyes. The remaining eye was also a little more than 100 black, which looked a little strange. When the old man raised his head and looked at Xiao Pingan felt that the trajectory of the raindrops started to change as if they had turned into a net. Under the light of the raindrops, Xiao Pingan could faintly see runes fluctuating under the granite ground under his feet. Interesting. The runic spell on the ground was a spell to create a prison. It was about to be activated, and the raindrops above his head changed their trajectory. He should be using water to cast a net spell. The summoning spells of Summoner were not unchanging. Some summoning spells would change as the summoner's ability and divine power improved. Their understanding deepened, their proficiency in using spells increased, or their interaction with other spells. For example, summoning a net. Ordinary summoners would use divine power to summon a net, but some summoners could bestow water or fire elemental abilities to the net when summoning it. A water elemental net would be more difficult to deal with than an ordinary net in today's heavy rain. It would also be more difficult to break free from. It would also have a stronger restraining effect on some creatures. The old man in the gatehouse should be able to use water to cast the net summoning technique. Xiao Pingan actually had this ability as well. Xiao Pingan didn't say anything. He just took out his envoy inspector token and showed it to the old man. In an instant, the raindrops in the sky seemed to return to normal, and the ground didn't change at all. The sleepy old man suddenly became energetic. He stopped sleeping and kicked the sleeping dog. A man and a dog ran out of the gatehouse. The dog ran fast, but the old man was limping. He didn't care about the raindrops falling on him. The dog wagged its tail while the old man gave Xiao Pingan a humble and fawning smile, revealing a mouthful of smoky yellow teeth. "Lord Inspector, I didn't expect you to take office today." I'm sorry. I'll call the down to welcome you. No need. I'll go by myself. By the way, what's your name? You're quite alert." Xiao Pingan looked at the old man and found that except for one blind eye, the old man's 2 legs were prosthetic. No wonder he walked awkwardly. "Lord, you can call me Luleoyo. I'm the gatekeeper of the supervision department of Donggang. I'm here to make a living." "Fine, I'll go upstairs myself." "Is it the 2nd floor?" It's on the 2nd floor. You can enter it by pushing the door." Xiao Pingan then walked towards the stairs behind the fountain. When he reached the top of the stairs, Xiao Pingan turned around and saw Luleoyo and his dog humbly, seeing him off in the rain. He waved his hand. Luleoyo then went back to his gatehouse with his dog and started to take a nap. After coming to the front of the thick copper-covered wooden door at the entrance of the 2nd floor, Xiao Pingan put his umbrella into his space teleportation equipment and casually pushed the door open. Behind the door was a long aisle. The wooden floor was covered with a thick red carpet. Various paintings and artworks were hung on both sides of the wall. This place looked very stylish, like a museum. In front of the aisle was an antechamber. Behind the marble front desk, a beautiful woman in her 20s was sitting there. At the sight of this woman, Xiao Pingan felt that the world was too small. Because this woman was Wei Meiyu, the beautiful mathematician from the Granshang Library in Shangjing City. Wei Meiyu was wearing a light green top with a white and black lace shirt underneath. She was wearing a pair of gray trousers and high heels. She looked natural and graceful and pleasing to the eye. It was out of Xiao Pingan's expectation that Wei Meiyu would be here. Xiao Pingan's footsteps were not heavy. Therefore, when he arrived at the front desk, Wei Meiyu, who had been writing something with her head lowered, noticed that someone had arrived. "Sir, excuse me. It's you? Why are you here?" Seeing Xiao Pingan coming here, Wei Meiyu immediately stood up from behind the desk. When she was about to ask Xiao Pingan what happened, she immediately recognized Xiao Pingan. How could Wei Meiyu forget Xiao Pingan? At the sight of Xiao Pingan, Wei Meiyu was both surprised and delighted. Her mind was filled with thoughts while her cheeks instantly blushed. Before Xiao Pingan opened his mouth, Another woman's voice sounded from not far away. She said coldly, "Brat, how dare you bully people in the Donggang Supervision Department? I'm going to settle accounts with you." As soon as the voice fell, Xia Pingan felt a fireball flying toward his head. The temperature of the fireball wasn't high, and it wasn't big either. If it landed on his head, it wouldn't kill him. However, his hair would probably be completely burnt off, and his head would be burnt to a pulp, turning into a pig's head. What the hell is this? Xia Pingan did not expect that someone would dare to throw a fireball at his head here. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.